And now it's time for Headlines with JT and the Hootastic panel.
Hello, Who viewers. How are you doing? Nice to see you all. Yes, we're back for another one of your favorite headlines. Here we go for Sunday, 21st of July, 2024. I hope you're all well. Oh, man, what a week it's been. I don't know about you, but topsy-turvy world. This is a world where, I look around and I just think, this is what, people used to say years and years ago when the lunatics get out of this asylum, hold of the world. It just seems that is now kicking in left, right, and center here. Goodness me. But listen, great to see you all in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Have you heard? Doctor Who is gaining momentum when it comes to criticism. Oh, yes. Jody Whittaker is feeling protective. And later on in the show, I'm going to be chatting to Paul and yourselves and asking the question, why is it that the TQ lot and the Q lot of fans seem to be the worst version of a fan ever? That's all coming up for you in this particular show. Oh, yes, no holds bar here. I've mentioned them already, so let's bring Paul on. Hello to you.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Have you got your cup of tea?
I have, yes, indeed. I need a cup of tea to brace myself for the news coming up.
For what we're going to be talking about. Good to hear. Well, listen, it has been a bizarre week, hasn't it? Absolutely bizarre week. Before we get down to it all, Paul, though, I do actually want to say the usual thank you to everybody that's been getting in touch this week. I have a big list here, Paul, because we've had lots of messages and lots of comments this week. Thank you to everybody for commenting about our headlines in the week. And also thank you to everybody that commented and has been supporting our brand new series of reviews of the Peter Cushing Hammer House of Horror films, which we started on Friday. Really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much. But I'd like to say a huge thank you to Graham Buxton. The Truth is Up There. RJ Andy 2, MW56101, Triple Jazz Musical 1883, Modehead 101, Cute Poirot 0, Michael Hallett 4110, Matthew Burrows 4359, Crimpling Doubloon, Gary Bryant, Torchwood 00, Paul Holgate, Joshua 2732, Anthony Parkinson, MW56101, Theodore Benton, Graham Dawson, Charlie Does, Len Looks Back, Mudcrab, Doug Sims, Babette Bombshell, Silver Dalek, Alexander Bito Werbra, you know Lex. I'd call Lex. The Legion of James, and I'd also like to send out a huge, big message of love and support to Matt N. Spiel 19341, who's had some really bad personal news this week. It's a very sad time for him. So we're sending all big love to you, mate, and lots of support. You know where we are as well. So not a nice time for you at the moment, but all that big love and support going out to you there. So there we go. So thank you to everybody that's been in touch. Really appreciate it. It's great, isn't it, Paul?
It's lovely. It's lovely to have all that appreciation. I'm really enjoying the fact that people have liked Curse of Frankenstein, because that was lovely to review a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed that. So hopefully more of that.
Actually,
it was fantastic. It was, yeah. And Peter Cushing was amazing. I have to say that again. Superb performance. Recommend it.
Absolutely. And if you didn't see the show, it's live on. It's there on our playlist now. It's the first in a series, because yes, we're going to do another one. We'll do another review on one of those. But for me, in case you didn't see it, it was fantastic, Who viewers, because I've never seen these things. So it was a brand new film, a brand new piece of entertainment for me, and it was entertainment. And God, I crave entertainment, Paul.
Well, to give another plug for next week's review, Carry On Cleo. I'm looking forward to that as well, I have to say. So.
Well, it's true, yeah. I mean, yeah, we are going to be doing it. There it is. There, Carry On Who's Views Reviews. We are going to be looking at Carry On Cleo this week here on the channel. So if you fancy a laugh, and God knows right now, I think we need one, come and join us for that. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, we super. That's a great film. Some great lines, some great performances, and again, all the team are in it, which is great.
Yeah. So come and join us for that, because really, really, really looking forward to that as well. But thank you everybody for joining us in the chat. I want to say a huge thank you to Kirsty and to Garbage, who are in the chat with you all, looking after you all. and making sure everybody is fine and dandy in there. So listen, we're going to crack on, and I want to know, as usual, what everybody in the chat thinks of all these subjects. We're going to crack on now. We're going to start with, goodness me, on our last headlines, Paul, we talked about the Deadline review, of course, which was this one, which has gone. Well, you can call it viral, but you can also call it, anything else you want. It's gone worldwide because this has been talked about an awful lot now by various sources, not just ourselves. So this was Doctor Who's regeneration. Has the Disney gamble paid off? And as I said at the time, a lot of what Deadline was saying is what we've been saying on Who's Views and Headlines in our reviews of the show, the series that's just gone out, for quite some time, basically. So it's as though they're watching us.
Maybe they are. I bet they are.
Maybe they are. But I want to say thank you to Mark Milford. Mark sent me, Paul, a lot of links on the back of the Deadline interview because an awful lot of people jumped onto this. In fact, the only people I don't think that did jump onto it was the BBC. But everybody else seemed to. And one of the ones that caught me from one of the articles that Mark put me in touch with was this one from sfgazette.com. Now, some of you may know this particular site. This one was, I've looked at this site before for various things, but this particular one got to me. Doctor Who's future called into question amid low ratings and Disney Plus potentially scrapping its involvement. So this whole news that Deadline have set about is really shaking up various elements, Paul. It's quite bizarre, I think, because so what if I'm going to ask the question again? So what if Disney pull out? Who cares?
As you said, they could quite easily do it on their own, and they probably will, because I reckon that they'll probably give Shooty a third season, or as you said before yourself, maybe a collection of specials to round off his era to make it look like it was a success potentially. So that's the plan, I'm sure.
Yeah, because they'll want it to go for 3-4 consecutive years anyway, won't they? And then just perhaps, but let's have a look at what they were saying here from this particular one, sfgazette.com. It appears Doctor Who is on the chopping block after just one season on Disney Plus, after low viewing figures have called both it and the future of the BBC's deal with the streamer into question. Check it out. This is by Josh Wilding. So it is all based on the Deadline review, but it's interesting to get their point of view. After 3 60th anniversary specials, Doctor Who returned earlier this year with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. Behind the scenes, Russell T Davies, who brought the series back from the dead in 2005, was appointed showrunner, and the BBC made a deal with Disney Plus to give the show a big budget overhaul and bring it to its largest audience ever. So that's quite important to remember, isn't it? That's what they always was the aim, Paul, to get the biggest, largest audience around the world ever.
And isn't that ironic that they haven't really, which is such a shame? I
think irony is a nice word.
Yes.
Yeah,
but no one's going to see that.
The article continues, Paul, with this. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to have worked. Deadline has taken a deep dive into Doctor Who's performance since it returned to our screens in May, with the 8 new episodes, and claims noises that it may not last beyond its initial 2 seasons are already reverberating around international TV circles and, of course, fan circles. One source close to the production believes its future hangs in the balance already. There's even chatter about the BBC Disney Plus deal not being re-upped after season 2 airs, suggesting Doctor Who will be either scrapped or forced to go back to being a lower budgeted production with a primarily UK-based audience. Well, what's wrong with that? I mean,
exactly, yeah.
What's wrong with that? I mean, we know that fans, our friends from abroad, will come and watch the show anyway. It's just making it accessible to them.
Yeah.
Why should they have to pay for something like Disney Plus again when they were getting it free beforehand, for example? We know from a lot of
like in Australia, for instance. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got friends in Australia that was saying, well, we can't see it now because quite rightly they don't want to pay for it. We've got friends in Canada, and obviously we've got friends in America, all of whom were saying they found it somewhere anyway. So I don't know. I think these are I didn't like that sentence when it comes to that, but just that bit there, being a lower budgeted production with a primarily UK-based audience. Doctor Who doesn't need to be massive produced, with lots of millions and millions and millions of pounds or dollars in it, does it? Come on.
As I've said before, effects enhance the story in the programme, and I think if effects are better, that's great, but it's not the be-all and end-all of Doctor Who, is it?
Exactly. The article continues. Disney has reportedly had a fair bit of creative input with the new series. Did anybody spot it? Though it's unclear whether that extends to the woke themes and casting, which is indeed believed to have hurt viewership. Ironically, one of this relaunch's best episode tackled the subject of racism. So this is disappointing to hear. Oh, really? While Disney Plus doesn't disclose viewing figures, the show did reach a high of 7th on the streamer's list of most in-demand series in the US. However, considering its budget and a pricey marketing campaign, viewership figures stateside are deemed underwhelming and okay, but not stellar. Doctor Who has always had a bigger audience in the UK, well, naturally, but the outlook there isn't much brighter. Its launch was well behind Jody Whittaker's final episode. It says here, while she was a fine Doctor, her stint was considered a low point creatively, with the entire series down an average of 1.5 million viewers per episode compared to her time in the TARDIS. The BBC is said to be happy with streaming numbers on its iPlayer, touting at least 65 million streams in 2024. But we all know, of course, that those 65 million streams include the original 26-year run.
But it's
and
just,
then
I'm just saying, it's
2005.
just Battlefield. That's all it was. That was it.
Yeah, people catching up on Battlefield to see how good it could be, how good
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
indeed. But that whole thing, I mean, I mean, I understand where they're coming from in a sense, but I just found it a little bit sort of, a little bit insulting in a sense, you know, because what's wrong with, why does everything have to be big budgeted now? Doctor Who never was. It really, really never was it, Who viewers? It was charming. The original series it works because it doesn't necessarily have the big budget, because it's all based on story and character.
Yeah. And it still rattles me a bit when people say that the effects were rubbish. I think the effects of Doctor Who had their moments that the occasionally weren't as strong as they could be, but a lot of them were very much made for at the time were quite groundbreaking, which I think is quite insulting at times. So people, if you look at 2005 Doctor Who and look at the effects on that, they're hell of a dated effects now, and that's only 20 years. So
Exactly.
Everything dates. That's the thing, you know. But
well, it absolutely does. And yeah, I'll still argue the point, Paul, of course, being me, that the original series, the original 26-year run, the special effects still hold up. We talk about this when we reviewed them. A lot of them still do, because it's not all lasers and it's not all big flashy spaceships and stuff like that, is it? You know, it's British science fiction, and it is because it's down to a story. Martin Brown saying to us here, dump Disney and bring back the cardboard sets and washing up bottles. That's my point, Martin. That's my point, you know.
Well, they've stopped doing Blue Peter, haven't they?
Yeah, Blue Peter's up for sale, isn't it? I wish I could buy it. I'd look after it. Mark is saying to us, Mark Harvey is saying, my son and I have been watching Classic Who recently and are very impressed at how well written and acted it is. Are you watching via the iPlayer? Because that's 65 million views. You know, that's not series one. That's the original stuff with people going back to look at that. You know, Mrs. Lisa Pertwee's gal is saying the audience is gone. Time to turn off the lights and go home. And Pooh's Lost Eyes is saying current show is overproduced and underwritten. That's a lovely way of saying that, Paul, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely on that. I think it's such a shame that I think this series has lots of potential and it's completely wasted.
Yeah. Matthew is saying to us, all right, Lark, there is no audience anymore. Well, no, yeah, we know that one, although they're denying it. Andy Gladtail is saying Yanks want it back on BBC America. Is that still going? BBC America? And Cute Prior Zero already decided I'm not watching New Who anymore. Oh, that's I don't blame you, because it was painful, wasn't it? I don't care if Disney pull out, says Steve Braddock. Doctor Who doesn't need big budgets, just good characters and good sci-fi family storytelling. We all seem to be coming from the same angle here after this story with Deadline and everything that's gone, all the people reporting about it and putting their own little touches in it as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, that article there, Paul, also mentioned the best episode was Dot and Bubble, because there was a racism element. That shows me where they're coming from, because the racism was from all white skinned people, allegedly, because I didn't pick up on that at all. And yet we've seen really the other way going on in our country this week.
Yeah.
It's out of touch. It's absolutely out of touch. But you can't say anything like that because you're automatically branded an istophobe bot. But you know what? I have been for 5 years now, 6 years, so I don't care. I'm saying it how it is. I look around me and I go, that's not right. Follow the laws of the land.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it gets on my wick, Paul. Really does. Paul Rose is saying to us here as well, there have been reports this week that Blu-ray and DVD sales have picked up. The streaming bubble has started to burst. Oh, really, Paul? That's interesting. Maybe that's because we're always going on here, all of us, telling people buy the physical stuff.
Well, that's it. I mean, everyone who buys DVDs and Blu-rays generally are collectors like us, because we like classic TV, and that's why it sells. And having, your own copy of it that's not edited is a blessing. If they're going to cut things out and change things and rewrite television history, that's horrible, isn't it?
It's shocking, and it shouldn't be allowed. And there should be people in the industry saying to these people who are trying to do that, you can't do that. You cannot do that because you're being dishonest. Just ridiculous, isn't it? Andy is also saying to us here, how can they have 65 million streams when only about 300,000 watch each episode on iPlayer over 7 day? They're including it's spin. What the BBC studios are doing there is saying, oh, the Doctor Who has had, now bearing in mind that Doctor Who is there from the Daleks onwards, from 1964 onwards, or 63 into 64 onwards. Yeah. They're classing it as one thing to try and make it look, oh, look, our version's okay. This new version is all right. Everybody loves it.
But like we said many times, JT, it'd be nice to see the figures of that and see how much is massively classic. That would be interesting to see.
Exactly.
But we'll never find out because they'll keep that very close to their chest, won't they?
Exactly. No. It might come out one day. I don't know. Hugh Janus is saying to us, all right, mate, how are you? It was cheap and cheerful. Well, that's... what was cheap and cheerful? Then that new version I watched. Oh, that'd be the Hammer Horror things. Yes, cheap and cheerful, very probably. Paul Holgate is with us here. Hi, mate. I think Jodie was being misdirected a lot by Chibnall, certainly in the sense that she was told not to watch any of her predecessors. Every Doctor should watch at least one story from the others. Yeah, well, I would say more from the original 7 more to encapsulate what, because they managed to get what was the Doctor down pat. I'd be. People like Eccleston, especially Tennant, would be in the memory for these actors.
Yeah.
So I would say go back and watch the original ones. That's what we're capture.
But to get the essence of the character, definitely, I would say I agree with that, because that is the Doctor from 1 to 7. I include 8 in that because I love Paul McGann. But I think that not letting an actor look at it to get an idea of what they're playing, because making it new is one thing and bringing your own thing to it, but you still have to be the Doctor, don't you?
Yes, and if you can't capture what that element of the Doctor is, you've lost it. And that's why I think I can't comment on Whittaker because I never saw her, but Gatwa hasn't captured that. He hasn't captured it because again he's being directed in a different way, but also he's bringing his own flavors to it. And as I've said earlier on social media, for me this isn't Doctor Who, it's Eric from Sex Education in Space. That's all it feels like to me, because I just all I see is Eric having a toned down version, not as camp, but getting there. Richard is saying to us, Doctor Who is as far removed from the original concept as fire is from water. Martin Brown is also saying to us, money doesn't always mean quality. Totally agree.
Right. Yeah.
And Digby's with us saying, Doctor Who works when we believe the menace faced by the protagonists. The strongest part of Genesis or Midnight are the interactions between the protagonists and not the effects. That's exactly it, isn't it?
As someone was saying in the comments earlier about watching it with their son, I think it's amazing that the acting is good and the stories are very good, but people treat it seriously. They're not with this constant tongue-in-cheek, very smug attitude. We're doing Doctor Who, it's a bit, that's what it's like now.
It's become self-referential, hasn't it? In that sense,
it's very self-aware. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're doing Doctor Who. Oh yeah, aren't we cool? Yeah. It never was that at all. It was, I mean, back in the original days, it was jobbing actors playing a job to pay the rent or the mortgage,
and making it believable and unbelievable circumstances, which is superb.
Yeah. Oh, those days are long
John
gone.
Pertwee said something along the lines of, you can't send up a send-up, I think he said in an interview nationwide somewhere.
He did.
I think that's so true.
Yeah.
It's true. You have to do it seriously because it is already fantastical. That's the problem, But
that's it. Quite right. And so was he. Bless him. God love him. Mark Milford is saying to us here, thank you for that. Again, Mark, that link. British entertainment doesn't need to keep up to the US. Just make excellent content, and the UK will always have an audience. The other thing I was going to say about this, guys, everybody in the chat, is what's this obsession with these people about America? It's also available everywhere else in the world. So they don't seem to be focusing on its home audience now, which has gone. And that's the most important, I would argue. No disrespect. But if you don't have the British public here, you're not going to get a show. And that's the way it's going, because the British public have said goodbye to this. They're not coming back under any way, shape or form now. They've gone. They have gone. And so that will mean no show eventually.
Christmas will be interesting. It certainly will.
It will be, but the new series more so for me, because Christmas is always a Christmas Day, and we've talked about that before. I mean, it's a captured audience, or should be. But what's the obsession with America? Why aren't they looking at the fact that Australia isn't watching, Canada isn't watching, Europe isn't tuning in here? All the important territories that the BBC built up over 60 years were dismissed because of this deal. Just gone. Oh, we don't need you now. We've got Disney.
Yeah, and like we said before in the previous show about neglecting fandom, I mean worldwide fandom, not just UK or America, whatever. Fandom is really important, and this is your audience for merchandise, and you're going to lose all that, and that's really stupid.
And the fact that they also added on top of that, the fact that they told us, we don't want you.
Yeah.
So quite rightly, we've turned our back, and we're continuing to turn our back. And the fact that they must be aware of this deadline article deal. They will be aware of shows like ourselves. They'll be aware of the fan dissatisfaction. But the fact that they just say, "Oh, they're opsonists and phobes,"
yeah,
turn on their heels. I find that very concerning.
Well, I've said before in many of our reviews, I really wanted to like this iteration of the show because I wanted it to be better than the previous Chibnall era, and it's proven to be worse, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. What do you guys think of that? Is Paul right? We are going to be coming up to Jody Whittaker in a couple of seconds. Hartnell's Ghost is here saying, I agree with Paul, read the classic effects. I remember watching Tomorrow's World demonstrating CSO in black and white and seeing it used on Doctor Who. Yeah, I've seen that somewhere as well, Hartnell's Ghost, with I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Neither can I. There's been lots of presenters. Yeah. I know you mean, yeah.
Yeah. He was on it for years, wasn't he? God, love him. Sean is saying to us, Doctor Who doesn't need Disney or Russell T Davis.
No,
and I'd agree with that as well, Paul. The only good episode was Boom, says Matthew Burrows. Richard, Doctor Who fails when it becomes adult. It's a family show, pure and simple. And that's what they've lost now. That's gone.
Well, even when it was doing something like the Hinchliffe era, it was scary. It was like horror movie kind of stuff. It was still entertaining, and it didn't go too far. Maybe occasionally, if you look at Deadly Assassin, perhaps, or moments of Brain and Morbius, but it was still exciting and fun.
Exactly.
And your family didn't have to vet the program first before you watched it.
I know. Yeah. And it's sad where it's got to now, isn't it? Cute Pryor, I know exactly what you're saying there. Very annoyed about this whole thing that's been going on in the UK over the last few days. It's absolutely shocking, but add it to the list. Paul Seeley is saying, I pay for ITVX so I could watch Classic Who and not add it to Gatwa ratings. You pay for ITVX? I thought it was free.
I thought it was free as well. Yeah.
How's that work, Paul?
I don't know.
Pop something in the chat and I'll try and find you.
Well, can you get ITVX outside the UK like a streaming system like Disney Plus, or is Paul in the UK? Because that would
let us know, Paul. Yeah. Paul Seeley, let us know if you could, because that's interesting, isn't it?
Because I watched the Nolly thing on ITVX, which I quite enjoyed.
Did as well. That was
quite funny. And
then I tried to watch that Douglas is cancelled on ITVX as well. I still haven't managed to get to episode 3 because I'm still quite tense about it and stressed about that one. Matthew, yes, we are with you. Buy physical stuff so they cannot do a 1984 on us.
Yeah, they're definitely trying that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Sheila B is with us. Doctor Who is fine managed by the BBC and maybe Bad Wolf. Disney can go whistle. It's not necessarily Bad Wolf because they have done some really good stuff in the past. It's Russell, in my opinion. It's RTD driving it, Paul, Who Views. He's driving the content. He's the showrunner. And as we know, nothing stops him and nobody will stop him. So Julie, Jane, whoever's around him, nobody's going to stop him because he knows Doctor Who better than them. That's why I think they've got to on that one. And it's a shame because Bad Wolf can do some really good stuff, but they're listening to the wrong people and they're all infected by this LA nonsense. Cybermat Strikes is saying collapse of the Disney deal simply signifies failure of current stewardship of the show. Even if the BBC keeps going, the show needs new leadership. It needs a rest. It needs a rest.
I've been seeing, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's another YouTuber who claims that Disney have already commissioned season 3 and 4 and several spin-offs. I'll believe it when I see it, but if that is the case and there's nothing to this story, I'll be hugely surprised.
Yeah, I'd be hugely surprised if it goes on and on and on. I mean, it's on a time limit because the British public are not there. And from what we hear, neither is the Disney audience worldwide. There we go. Hugh Janus, thank you so much for your super chat. For clarity, classic Doctor Who was cheap and cheerful. Right, thank you. Yes, absolutely. That's what we need. And it was, but it was also. Oh, it's classic because it involves you. It gets you in the story and it brings you in. And as I've said before on our shows, as a kid, when I watched this every Saturday night, it took me out of the real world and into the Doctor's world, the original Whoniverse, the proper Whoniverse.
I disagree partly with the cheap and cheerful thing, because I remember Stephen Moffat saying when you were a kid, you're looking at the CSO and go, "Oh my God, that's really," and you're really self-aware. You weren't. When I was a kid, when I watched stuff that you look back now and think that was actually not a great effect, I wasn't at 7, 8, 10, 11, whatever, going, that effect is really crap. I never did that. Did you?
No, I never. Well, the effects for us at the time were brilliant.
They were, exactly. So you didn't, but you weren't a self-aware 8-year-old going, "Oh, that rat's rubbish." Even in terms of when Chang, I was scared by that rat. I'm telling you.
Yeah, of course we were. Yeah, I mean, it's only with age that we see things for what they were. But when you're a kid, your imagination should be doing stuff for you. I don't know if it's the same for young people today, because some of them seem to be pampered to hell and very demanding and spoiled brattish. But back then, we certainly weren't. You were given this thing every Saturday night for 24, 26 weeks a year, and you lapped it up. It was fabulous storytelling.
Well, maybe it's just me, but I was scared of the nucleus of the swarm as well. But that's just
it's that noise that went with him.
And the problem, and that especially that cliffhanger where it's tiny coming out of the Doctor, then it grows in that little cabinet. That was really scary. I think the music added to that as well was really quite creepy. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree with you. Absolutely fantastic. Digby, thank you so much for your super chat as well. Keep up the good work, kids. Can we have a Fourth Doctor watch show soon? It's on the list. We did a lot of Fourth Doctor for Tom's big 90th birthday at the beginning of the year. We did quite a lot of specials for him. So we will be doing. We're coming back to the Fourth Doctor at some point, but we've got to pay some time with the others as well. But of course we are. We're never going to leave the Fourth Doctor around, are we? That's not going to happen. We love him too much.
Yeah.
Richard Hussey's reminding us, touch grass is what they said. And Andy's saying it never got into a Disney TV show's top 10 globally. It got into the top 10 in some countries, but it quickly dropped back out. It was within a week or something, wasn't it, Andy?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh. So he was seeing at the time, and it didn't get into the Nielsen charts at all, did it? If I remember correctly.
I think that's right. Yeah.
It's been difficult trying to find the figures because, as we know, Disney doesn't release them. It doesn't need to. But I think it's very bizarre that they're not, when they were pushing things like the Acolyte and stuff.
But I wonder what is considered a high rating on Disney Plus for another show. I mean, what is the definition of a high number of audience? You know what I mean? I wonder.
Well, there isn't. Well, there isn't one now, surely, because they keep moving the goalposts. Look at the BBC.
yeah, exactly.
Days.
Theirs is a work of fiction, though. That's very different.
Yeah,
so, allegedly.
Yeah. So. but it is, though, really, isn't it? I mean, it's just like we've got to make this thing look like it's still popular because we're investing money and time into it. Oh, we'll move the goalposts so that we're now recovering. Oh, and yet in 28 days it got this many. And you still can't prove to me that it's not fans going back and watching it over and over again. A, to understand the bloody thing, and B, because they've got nothing else to do, quite frankly.
Well, that's it, exactly. Now, this is interesting that Phil's put in, that's an interesting comment there.
Yeah, this is from Philip Roy, who's, of course, doing his own Doctor Who, or version of Doctor Who at the moment, Doctor Who and the Scorpion. So, yes, we saw your lovely pictures, Phil, of the police box.
Gorgeous.
With this week. Yeah, we put them onto our Who's Views Facebook page. And Phil's saying to us, if they don't turn up in already filmed season 2, we might have the first Doctor never to meet the Daleks on screen. Well, that's Paul McGann, isn't it?
That is Paul McGann, yeah. But...
Got you there, Phil. Anyway, because even if they commission a third series, Gatwa might be dropped from it. Again, I've said the Daleks are problematic because there are piles of hate in a tin can. And anything that isn't a Dalek, they'll zap.
Well, I reckon we'll get the Daleks and they'll bring back the spider Daleks they planned for McGann's series. That's how far they'll take them if they bring them back at all. Yeah, and they look great in the comics, but I can't see them. That animation that they did, the VFX effect of the spider Daleks was absolutely rubbish.
Well, I didn't.
Not Daleks at all, was it? Yeah,
I was never a fan of all that nonsense. So if there's anything like that, it's. Yeah. I don't know. I just can't see Russell T Davies wanting the Daleks near it. Or being confused about how to write the Daleks in this nicey period that he's bringing in, where everything has to be licky happy.
I'm surprised they brought Sutek back, to be honest, and disappointed at the same time, because it's meant to be a new take, a new series, away from all the continuity and a fresh start, and it doesn't seem to be that at all, does it?
No, not at all. Matthew Burrows is saying to us here, Amazon now have said that if you don't acknowledge pronouns, you're fired. Right, well, that's me not buying anything more from Amazon. There are various other sites available. So Amazon, if that's the case, if that's what you're telling your staff, stuff you. I will be going elsewhere as of today, and I will get things from other people, because there are plenty of other competitors out there. Sometimes I even like to go into the shop, Paul, an actual shop, and buy it physically from the shelf, you know. But if that's the case, Amazon, if you are Amazon, one of these businesses that are living up to this dictatorial fantasy that's being enforced on sane people around the world, well, I certainly won't be supporting you ever again. I'll get that clarified. But how dare they? This is it. This is what I was saying the other day. Compelled speech is on the way.
Yeah, sadly.
Here we go. ITVX says Sam Premium is the new BritBox.
Oh, I see. I think so. You pay an extra for the Doctor Who Classic section, I think. Maybe that's what you do, don't you?
Right, I didn't hear about that at all. Ben's saying the same thing. You pay for BritBox as well. And we've got Andy saying that BritBox moved to ITVX. Hugh Janus is saying to BritBox went into ITVX. Goodness me, I didn't. Did you hear about that, Paul?
No, I didn't. So if you've got that as an option, why can't you just watch it on the iPlayer?
Yeah. And John is saying ITVX is free. I don't pay anything. So John, you're in the UK, aren't you? I think John's with us here in the UK. And Paul, thank you again for your your super sticker. Let me have a look at the one you gave us there. Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Keep it up. It's that little pair. So thank you, Paul. We're doing our best to do that. So I appreciate that. That's great. No, I didn't hear that anything at all about that with ITVX. What are you saying to us here, Sam? ITVX Premium was ITV without the ads plus BritBox.
Oh, I see. So if you pay for it, you don't get adverts. Yeah, because you can do that on YouTube, can't you?
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently. Paul Seeley is saying to us here, Paul, ITVX has BritBox as part of it for $5.99. So that's cheaper than Netflix.
Yeah.
You see, they're doing what I said the iPlayer should do. Outside of the UK, because it's paid for by the license fee in the UK, outside of the UK, allow people from around the world, if they want to subscribe to the iPlayer, pay so much a month for it, and have access to a wealth of BBC material going back God knows how many decades. Why not? Why not do that? They don't need Disney.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some bizarre contractual thing they can't do that, no doubt.
Well, all they have to do is put it under. I mean, if it's not already, put it under BBC Studios.
Yeah, that would make sense.
You know, and run it as a streamer, because at some point, even with the current new administration we've got in, at some point the TV license fee will disappear. It has to.
Yeah.
You know, Richard is saying to us here, Paul, Disney is evil. Everything they take over, they destroy. Doctor Who and Star Wars being just the two. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse used to be quite cute, didn't he? But
not anymore.
No.
Bless him. Bless him. Kev Gresham, hiya. Kev, hi everyone. Whatever happened to winning your audience over? Then once you have them, then treat them with respect and entertain them with stories, not messages. Those days are well gone, Kev, mate. I tell you, they are gone, because you have to think like them. You have to be told you are wrong. And if you do not agree, if you stand up against them, as we all know, you're an ist, you're a phobe, you're an ot. It continues. It's every single day. You get cancelled, you get harassed, you get this, you get that, you get blocked. That's what I was saying at the top of the show. The world is topsy-turvy. And it does remind me of my late nan, who used to say when I was a kid, along the lines of, you know, God help you when the loonies get out the asylum and take over.
Yeah.
I think we're there, Nan. I really do.
I think your nan would be right. Yeah, we are definitely there yet.
Yeah, they saw it coming. They really did. Graham is saying to us, I never felt the effects were poor back in the day. Like Paul says, as a kid, your imagination takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still does when I watch those original ones, Paul. You know, because I remember how I felt.
The new stuff's never going to be as watchable or rewatchable as classic Who, and I know I'm biased, but it's definitely not. You know.
No, you can go back and watch. I've said it before, haven't I? Go back and watch some of those original things from 2005 onwards, and they're dated already.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm with Pooh's Lost Eyes there. The Talon's Rat. I love the Talon's Rat. I think it's superb. The new effects on the box set, though, I think, are worse than the original. So I don't know why they did that, allegedly. So
I don't know why they're doing this, but it's always the same, isn't it? It's chasing that mythical audience that they're desperately trying to find. That's all it is, isn't it? You know, you've got to find it. We've got to trim it down so it's 2 seconds long.
Well, wasn't there talk about colorizing the war games at one point? Is that the next one in the line? But the Daleks didn't do very well, so I'm hoping they're not going to do a 10-minute version of that.
Can you imagine if please don't do any more BBC Studios.
Yeah.
If you're looking,
Leave them alone. Yeah.
Leave them alone, or capture the audience that wants them, i.e. all of us original fans and the ones that appreciate the original series and love the original series that have come from the new version, and just colorize the 10, 25-minute episodes.
Yeah,
that would be lovely. Don't be giving them to a mythical audience. If they don't want to buy them, don't buy them, because they're not going to buy it anyway. Not many of them buy your merchandise. Give it to us, because we will buy it. You know, and how, you know, you're not giving us anything else at the moment because we're not paying for your tat. But Arrow Knight one, lower budgets and more hours to fill, used to encourage TV shows to rely on more character interaction and thought-provoking moments. There you go. And thank you, Hugh Janus, for your super chat there. Cheap and cheerful, but great, fun and engaging for the kids at the time. I didn't mean it was bad. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. We know. I mean, that was the brilliant thing, though, wasn't it? I mean, there were some crackers that were bad.
Well, someone mentioned Tomorrow People. They had a few effects. They had a lower budget than Doctor Who, but I used to love Tomorrow People as well. And some of that was scary too, I have to say.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? But you know, if it hadn't been for things like Doctor Who, trying it out, Hugh, with all the lovely effects and stuff like that, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah.
You know, because Doctor Who in its small way contributed to the industry to learn how to create the technology to do things they wanted to do. And I'll stand by that. I really will.
Well, I'm with some fans who claim that, and this is purely speculative, that George Lucas may have borrowed elements from Doctor Who, but that's another debate for another time. But
well, it is actually. But now you've mentioned it, I'm going to say it. I remember being in the cinema in 1977-78 when I saw the original Star Wars, the proper Star Wars, with that.
Yeah.
I'm being delighted because Tom Baker's title sequence was around the Millennium Falcon. I thought something that, you know, was it?
They carried that tradition on Family Guy. If you've seen the Family Guy Star Wars episode, they did it in that as well. That was superb. Yeah,
and it was the actual title sequence on that one as well, wasn't it? Right. Andy, thank you so much for your super chat as well. I really think Gatwa will not do a third season. Oh, really? Do you? He is out of contract at the moment, from what I hear. I would reckon if it was a series of specials that he can get done very, very quickly, he might just do that to finish it off. But we'll know. We will get to know. You know, we will get to know at some point what's going on, won't we? But it'll all be clearer then with what's happening. John's confirmed he's in the UK. I thought you were, mate. Nice to see you. And joining us now is Problem Being as well. Hiya. Hope your work's going well. I hope we're not distracting you from your very busy schedule. Are you all right, mate? Nice to see you. He's so rushed off with his work. Ben is saying to us, JT, can you make a review video of the TARDIS interior, starting from the Unearthly Child to Ncuti's TARDIS? Well, last year we did do a special tribute show to the TARDIS. Do you remember that, Paul?
I do remember. Yeah, was it called Back to the TARDIS? I think it was called.
Yeah, let's get back to the TARDIS. We called it, and it was part of our 60th anniversary special. So it's on the Diamond Collection playlist. If you want to go and look at that and put a comment down to it. But the TARDIS is one of my favorite elements of Doctor Who ever. So at some point, yes, we are going to be returning to the old girl. Because I mean, oh bless. There's lots we can do when it talks to talk about the TARDIS. You know, absolutely loads of it. Thank you so. Oh no, JT, the Daleks are real, Disney. Oh God, I honestly don't think they'll come back. I've got no stuff. About it. Paul, thank you very much for your dancing pair. Paul is saying to us here, look, you can't beat a dancing pair.
Yeah,
I love the spelling. That's great. That's funny. Yes, so that was that particular one. It's just amazing that impact, isn't it? Whose views on that deadline report it spread everywhere like a rash, basically, and everybody was talking about it. All the YouTubers were talking about it. All the other online news facilities were talking about it. And the only people that have ignored it so far that we know about is the BBC. Oh, I'll add that. I'll add Panini to that as well. Because they're all living in their blissful world, aren't they?
It is a bit like, I think Ian said this, like that moment in Christmas Invasion when the Doctor says about Harriet Jones, doesn't she look tired? I mean, that kind of, it feels like that. a bit, doesn't it? Really, and it's spread round the internet and everywhere else.
Really? Oh, really? Mark is saying, rat, what rat? I was busy watching Leela. You should be locked up. Do you know, people wouldn't like that, though, these days, would they? There are certain fans, don't we? We're going to be talking about them later on that wouldn't like all that. Oh, because they had huge problems with those brilliant classic stories, didn't they? Because they're all loony. We've also got Raymond Williams joining us. Hello. Hiya. And Lisa is saying to us, War Games would make a great 120-minute movie. It would indeed, especially if they colorized it. You could do that, because there are some bits you could trim, because it's 10 episodes and some of it is like the Daleks. There's some padding in there.
Leave episode 10 alone, though. Episode 10 is superb. That's a brilliant episode.
Yeah. You can't do anything like that. And Squawk is with us saying here, I've heard Disney have been obliged to adopt a more comprehensive inclusion policy and are now required to employ heterosexuals. Or was that a cheese dream? That's definitely a dream.
That's definitely a cheese dream, yes. Yeah,
definitely. That's not. They don't go that far. No, they're not going to go that far. Don't be silly. The DEI.
Well, there will be a kind of turn around. The ship will turn around, and that maybe become a reality in about 40 years' time.
It's going to be a long time after what we're going for. We are going to be talking about that subject a little bit later on. So stay with us here for headlines this Sunday, the 21st of July. It's great to see you all. Thank you for joining us. Oh, right. Let's get into this. Now, one of the main problems, the Deadline article and all of everybody else and all the spin that's come off the back of that has pointed out, is the fact that, as we know, as we have proved on this very show, thanks to Bedweir's ratings analysis, the thing's not being watched. It's, in a nutshell, nobody's watching apart from the die-hard core audience, which is shrinking, because they've told us all, as you guys were saying in the chat, go and touch grass, we don't want you. And we've had it for years. We've had it since that announcement in 2017, haven't we? We don't want the original fans anymore. Go away. And they have. And they're not coming back. And then there's people like us that watch it purely because we're running a channel here and we're reviewing it, and it's been painful to watch. So when you're looking at this, you have to look at why has it shed viewers as quickly as it has done? Why has it shed its fan base? And do you know what occurred to me, Paul? All these franchises that are in the same bowl in the toilet right now have the same things in common. Bad people show running them, bad people making the decisions, bad scripts, bad writing, some dodgy directions, some dodgy players in the show. It's all the same sort of stuff. People that can't keep that shut as well, when they should be actually just be doing a job and building a character. And one of the many problems with the last series that we've just had there was writing, wasn't it? We've all talked about it before. But I don't know if any of you have seen this from radiotimes.com. Doctor Who boss says Mrs. Flood breaking the fourth wall might never be explained. Now, this is one of the things I'm talking about. What is the point in writing a series with all these threads and all these things that are going on if you're not going to explain it to your audience that's actually staying with you and watching it? This makes no sense to me.
He does, though. Like I said, he explains it on Unleashed, which is like you have to watch that to understand the plot, which is ridiculous. You have to do that. It's like, why are you doing that? But I wonder if he's teasing us a little bit, and they might explain at the end of season 2. But that's a vain hope. I don't think he will. But it's really lazy writing if he's not going to explain it in the context of the episode. And all this breaking the fourth wall, winking at the camera, all that kind of stuff. If they're not going to explain that, and it's like the anticlimax of Ruby's mum being a real person, a normal person, an ordinary person, a brave and amazing person. And it's like, why was Sutek so afraid of an ordinary person? I don't understand that at all. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, let's get into this article where he says this at all. So bearing in mind that headline, Mrs. Flood. And now she's been there since the Christmas Day episode last year.
Yeah.
She's been throughout the series as well. She had a bit of a role there. Anyway, here it is. From radiotimes.com. One of the most surprising elements of Doctor Who Season 14 was its repeated shattering of the fourth wall. But showrunner Russell T Davies has suggested we may never get an in-universe explanation for why it's happening. Anita Dobson's enigmatic Mrs. Flood bookended the season by addressing the audience in the church on Ruby Road and providing some concluding remarks in the action-packed finale, Empire of Death. Both of those moments teased bigger stories to come with that particular character, while the Doctor's own wink to camera in The Devil's Board was seemingly just for fun, ushering in an elaborate dance number. We've also got to remember that that awful drag queen did the same thing, broke the fourth wall, you know. It carries on. RTD continues, there is actually a reason for it that was in a very early draft of The Star Beast, but I see no need to explain it whatsoever. My sister watches that. She doesn't blink. She actually doesn't blink when a character turns to camera and gives them a wink, probably because she's bored out of her mind. I mean, you would if it was Pride and Prejudice. That would be odd. But there's something showy about Doctor Who. There's something proscenium arch about it. Good God. There's something arc about it, full stop. For those unfamiliar with theatre jargon, a proscenium arch essentially refers to the area of a stage in which a show unfolds. It is the frame where the characters, locations, and scenarios exist with the audience sat firmly outside. Of course, in some theatre productions, characters do occasionally step out to acknowledge the audience watching them, and Davies believes that it isn't a stretch for Doctor Who to do the same. He added, I think it's a programme which you can very happily turn towards the audience. It's a very fine, very simple tradition. Even if there isn't a full explanation, fans may gain a stronger understanding of how Mrs. Flood can break the fourth wall when we learn the true nature of her character. At present, we know very little, but sinister lines of dialogue uttered in the two-part season 14 finale suggest that she was a powerful entity with malicious intent. Roll on season 15. Yeah, because we're all so excited for that, radiotimes.com. Yeah. We are thrilled, aren't we, Who viewers? I mean, we are thrilled.
Breaking the fourth wall can work in certain things, like Morecambe Wise did it. They do it in Shakespeare, they're called asides, things like that. But it's kind of, it doesn't really fit Doctor Who, because Doctor Who needs to be credible and believable in the fantastical, like I said earlier, like John Pert was saying about you can't send up a send-up. But if you're going to have it, you have to explain it, don't you?
I would have thought so, and I would have thought that was common sense in a story. But everything that he said there, I will disagree with completely. And it's as though it's as though he's saying, well, you know, we're going to be very, very pretentious and you have to get on board with it. Well, people are not getting on board with it. And if you're going to have a character, I mean, you know, Morgus did it beautifully in the Caves of Androzani.
Yeah.
You know.
And that was my mistake.
That was my mistake. But this one has been designed and there's lines talking to the audience. Again, Tennant did it. That awful drag queen did it in The Devil's Board. We've got Shooty doing it as well. There has to be a reason for that. You can't just say we might not explain it. Why do it in the first place then? Doctor Who is not what he once was, says Ian England. Ian, nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Thank you very much for that. We totally agree with you.
Yeah, I'd agree too. I mean, the fourth wall breaking thing. If it gets explained, that would be fine. Maybe you could accept it. If it's going to be that, let's say this is fan speculation. Let's say they're in the Matrix, or it's a TV program and they're a TV program, like the Truman Show with Jim Carrey sort of idea, something like that. But it's still a bit naff, isn't it? Really, you know,
it's lazy writing again.
Yeah,
I've mentioned this before. I genuinely believe that RTD has lost his ability to write, and what I think he's better at writing is those things that deal with TQ issues, and he should get back to Channel 4 and Red Productions and write that show again for 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night on Channel 4. I don't think he should be in charge of a family show like Doctor Who anymore, because he's too obsessed with pushing those agendas into it. And as Ian would say, if Ian was joining us now, too obsessed with trying to get those messages to a younger audience, which in the UK right now is being questioned. There's a lot more coming out now, thankfully. There's a lot more questioning coming out. There's a lot more people becoming aware and saying, hang on a second, what are you doing? Why have we got primary schools in the United Kingdom supporting TQ Pride? I'm not going to say it's LGBT plus Pride anymore, because it's not. It's more TQ Pride now. There are even, Brighton this weekend held a Trans Pride. The second one, as far as I'm aware, Trans Pride. No LGB allowed in that one. So that proves the point beautifully that there is LGB without the TQ. Thank you for doing that. Keep it going, because we need that separation. Bloody idiots. But yeah, I mean, Eastland was saying to us there's no rewatchability. And Paul is saying to us here, RTD will never give up Doctor Who until he drives every single viewer away. He's absolutely nuts. He hasn't got long to go then, has he? Because I think the next series is going to kill it when it comes to the ratings. I genuinely believe I will get my 1.9 on the ratings game on our review shows. I think we're going to get there. Peter Venkman, nice to see you, mate. The creatives lack imagination, which weirdly was talked about in the late 80s. I guess those people were right. Oh, that's a good point.
I know we're slightly biased, but I think compared to now, the 1980s, it looks like a completely different show, and it looks still like Doctor Who, you know?
I just find it insulting, everybody, that they're using this. They're calling it Doctor Who. It's not. It's nothing like Doctor Who. This is the show, the original looking show that they would have wanted to do, and it would have flopped for them. But because they badged it as Doctor Who and they put the police box in it and they're calling the main character the Doctor, it's as though they thought, oh, we can do that show that we really want to do. Do you know what I'm getting at here? And we'll just badge it as Doctor. It's nothing like Doctor Who. It's nothing like it at all. It's lame, isn't it? It's absolutely awful.
And they had to put the diamond logo on it as well.
Oh, yeah.
The beautiful diamond logo. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not. What else we got here in the chat as well? Cute Pyro is saying here about that. And breaking the fourth wall, I found pathetic and just annoying because it was overdone. But
yeah,
even that, it's the thing is nobody cares, says Graham. Yeah, well, certainly the public don't and the audience don't. And you're right, Graham, in a sense as well, because the whole thing about it, for me, it's lazy. It's totally lazy. If you're not going to explain something, then why do it? I'm still very confused over all the threads he had going in that. The biggest one for me was the reveal, that whole thing about Ruby's mum. Yeah. Who cared about that at the end of the day? Because that was a letdown. Why was there snow everywhere? I don't understand that.
That's a bizarre thing, yeah. If the snowing part of it, you know, that's more than just being a normal person, surely. The universe snows because Sutek's scared of a human being someone's mysterious mum. It's just odd.
I didn't get any of that because nothing's explained. And because they've now only got 8 episodes, Paul, he's pushing far too much into it. And then there's no payoff. There's no explanation. And of course, as we all know, Russell T Davies loves his big, alleged epic 2-parters. Yeah. The first one is always pretty good.
Yeah.
And the second one's always pretty enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's kept up that tradition, hasn't he? You know, and the reset button.
Oh, the reset button. Yeah. We thought everyone in unit dies. Oh, no, they're brought back to life again. Yeah.
And you just know it as well, don't you? When they say it's going to be the biggest finale ever and not everyone makes it out alive, well, actually they do, don't they? It's just hype.
They all made it out alive. Yeah.
It's lazy hype. Priorities are all in the wrong order, says Time Lord Victorious. The politics over story, lazy writing, making the Doctor weak and emasculated, choosing to focus on Twitter reactions rather than doing things for plot and character.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
The Doctor has to be the most intelligent person in the room, and he knows all the answers, or they know all the answers. If it is Jody Whittaker, for God's sake, but it should be, you know, he should be the character that you look up to, not be dismissed or taking the mickey out of. That's be a strong character. You have to believe in him, and making him weak and vulnerable that he cries every 5 minutes. I think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, I like what Paul Holgate is saying to us here. Tom Baker broke the fourth wall, but with much more class, but also with the talent. Because actually, when you look at him, he's not looking at us. Yeah. He's actually looking beyond the camera. So he's actually talking to himself, in a sense. And I love the way Tom pulls that off. He's the only one that did it. Sylvester tried it as well, and it failed on its face. He couldn't do it. He absolutely couldn't do it. It was awful. It was cringeworthy. But Tom had that ability to be able to say, this is something the Doctor would do because he's the cleverest man in the room. He talks to himself an awful lot anyway. So he just looks up and look at him again, especially in something like Invasion of Time. Just look at him again, and he's just looking past the camera. So clever.
Well, he does a similar one in Pirate Planet when Kanan gives him I think what scale the Mentiads are on, and he that's what I thought. And he looks at the camera. That's a brilliant moment as well. That's very funny.
Because he's an actor and he knows that the audience isn't there. And I just love the way he just misses your eye line, if you know what I mean. Your vision, he just misses it. So he's not looking at you. Lisa Pertwee's girl said when Tom Baker did it, it was rare and very enjoyable in his era because he was talented. Yeah. Stephen Braddock is saying to us here, 1, bad showrunner, 2, bad writing from RTD, 3, no costume for the Doctor, 4, too much crying, 5, making the Doctor too emotional and sexual, and 6, no in-story explanation or payoffs. There's a lot more to them as well, isn't it? There's a lot more to it.
Well, I never thought. I think the no costume thing, all those things are really spot on. But the no costume thing for me personally gets me so much, and it sounds really vacuous to say that. But if he had a more a definitive outfit, like the leather jacket look that he gets now and again, and like they had for Madame Tussauds in the last show, it's like, why are they not going with that all the time? You know?
Mm. I think that's the case. It has been pointed out, hasn't it, Stephen, on some other articles based on the Deadline article as well, that they think that because he doesn't have that iconic image, it does hold the disbelief that the belief that this is the Doctor. So it actually sort of proves that the Doctor does need that outfit. It does need that element of Doctor Who to be able to say, "There's the Doctor," because otherwise you've just got this bloke turning up every week in some pretty awful outfits. Let's face it.
Well, I mean, when he turns up again in the outfit with the leather jacket, it looks really cool. It really suits him. It's a great outfit, you know. And then he gets the one in the Christmas one. He's got a kilt on, and then he's got, you know, the vest top on, or he's got the strange 80s outfit he's got in Boom and things like that. It's a little bit odd, you know. Like...
See, on that outfit, I didn't like it. I think the leather jacket was right, but it was too much. I've just come out of a gay club in 1980 something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And I didn't like that. I would rather see him. I would love to see what Shooty came up with himself before RTD and everybody went, no, let's do something different. Let's have him in different clothes everywhere. I'd love to see the outfit he put together because it was quite preppy, I believe, wasn't it? Allegedly, we hear it was quite preppy. It was sort of what he thought the Doctor would look like. And I think that's important for an actor. And I would have loved to have seen that because that would have informed his performance.
Well, I love it when classic Doctors go into history and they just wear what they normally wear. Like Tom and Mascom and Drager are wearing the full outfit with the scarf, or Primus of Mars. He doesn't bother to put something on that's period. You know what I mean? I think that's great. You know, I know he did it occasionally in the Hartnell and stuff like that, but I think it's much more fun when he's dressed in his proper Doctor outfit, don't you think?
Oh, totally agree with you as well. And also from the audience, it's reassuring because you're getting the Doctor every week. Here we're getting somebody just it's not the Doctor, it's just some fella that's traveling around in time and space and not even getting the outfits ready for where he lands.
It's like someone else is next to TARDIS and traveling around as an imposter at the moment. That's what it feels like, you know.
It does feel like that, and it's all down to RTD and his team and this new image. Julianne is saying it brilliantly here. It's so literally a pantomime. RTD, you hack. Yeah, no arguments for me, Julianne. You're going to know that. And Mark is saying to us here, breaking the fourth wall was perfected in the original House of Cards.
Yes, Ian Richardson, superb, absolutely superb. Yeah, directed by Paul Seed, who played in Rebus Operation. He played the Graf in Decay. Great actor, director. Yeah, superb.
And Ian Richardson, yet again, another Doctor we didn't get.
Oh yeah, I recommend if you've not seen Private Schultz. It was produced by Philip Hinchcliffe. Great 80s drama set during World War II. It's a brilliant drama. I recommend it.
Really? There you go. Yeah. People have a look at that. But that, I remember being avidly watching that thing every week, the original House of Cards. I loved that and loved Ian Richardson's performance from the Michael Dobbs book, which I then had to go and buy. And then loved that as well. I didn't like the American version. No offense. I didn't like it. It didn't get the magic for me. You know,
was that the one with I've forgotten his name now? What's his name? Forgot his name. Who played the politician? Forgot his name.
Can't remember. I only went 2 or 3 episodes into it and then dismissed it. I didn't like it because we've been spoiled by the BBC version, which was brilliant, absolutely amazing. Terry Tease is saying, "Yep, the fourth wall is lazy as it gets," and Neville's with us as well, saying, "Do it for effect and forget about it. It's just lazy writing." Yes, please, Lisa, who's off to pop the kettle on. Yes, please, could do with one. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just milk. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks.
Yeah, just milk for me as well, Lisa. Pop them in the taxi. Let's have a look at this. Peter Davison broke the fourth wall at the end of the 3 Doctors. That'd be the 5 Doctors when he said, "Why not? After all, that's how it all started." Straight to camera. Again, when you look at him, he's not actually. He's looking just past.
Yeah,
he's looking just past. He's not looking at you, the viewer. So he's not actually breaking the fourth wall.
Even that bit in Arc of Infinity as well, when Tegan says she's staying and he does that amazing face, that's almost breaking the fourth wall as well. He's like, "Oh God," you know.
Yeah. So no, he's not. Go and look at it again. You'll find that he's not looking. He's not looking at us. He's looking away from us, and that's what actors should do. So all this fourth wall stuff, but that blatantly, when it comes to Anita Dobson, she is doing this deliberately, as did the drag queen. As did she. They are breaking the fourth wall, and for him to turn around and say, "I might not explain why," I think that's cheating your audience, personally.
I think it is, but I mean, like I said, maybe we'll explain it later. That sounds like a Doctor Who quote. I'll explain later. But I think it is kind of, maybe will end of season 2 tell us why this happened. It'll be connected, because this season 1 and 2 feels like just one season, doesn't it? To be honest, you know what I mean?
Talent is reminding
Kevin
us it was
Spacey,
Kevin
that's right.
Spacey.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, who's back in the news again now, of course, isn't it? So yeah, thank you about that. But Ian Richardson was mine. I preferred that.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that, see if you can track it down. If you're on it should be on the iPlayer, surely.
Yeah, superb.
Brilliant drama. Even a certain prime minister was watching it, apparently.
Yeah.
Or was she ex at that point? I can't remember.
Maybe next, but I couldn't possibly comment, could I? Really, to be fair, but
no, that's true. Kev was saying to me, they used to break the fourth wall in The Hustle. It was great when it happened. I never saw that one, I'm afraid, mate. I don't know about
Hustle's
that.
another favourite of mine. Superb series, absolutely love it. It's really good.
I was always out or working when that was on, so I never saw that. And Matt is saying to us here, RTD's ego is more important than his love for the show. That is certainly coming across loud and clear, isn't it? It's all about him. And these headlines that we report on here on Who's Views, that does come across, Matthew, doesn't it? And the more we learn about him, I just got no time for him anymore, because it is all about what he's doing, what he wants to push. It's all very dodgy in my eyes. And Paul Seeley is saying to us here, plot threads hanging classic RTD. Yeah, okay. And TV Channel 1, hello. Nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. I was watching Terror of the Zygons last night. Classic. The Doctor was subtly disguised in tartan. None of the Scots saw through his disguise. Yeah, in reality they would.
Yeah. But, I think Angus Lenny could tell, I think.
Oh, Angus Lenny, what a love. But you know what? Great choice there for a Saturday night. Terror of the Zygons. Fantastic 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Paul is saying to us here, Paul Richards, Verity Lambert said the Doctor shouldn't be too good looking. What would she think of it now? Oh, I don't think she'd be impressed with recent years of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I long for the day. I know we had Peter Capaldi, who was the nearest we got to a proper Doctor, an actor of age and character. I want someone like that again. Somebody who's got gravitas, like Tom. But we'll never get that again.
It would be nice to have just a character actor in there again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Paul Rose is saying to us again here, even the still you just pulled up of Mrs. Flood looks like a pantomime, JT. It does, doesn't it? That whole thing with the Broly and stuff, that was all done, I think, to make fans think, oh, this could be the female master.
Missy. Yeah.
Or
someone speculates Romana or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's all been done because of that, but it's all nonsense, isn't it? But you know what? This is the thing about it all, isn't it, everybody? That's what he's saying there now. This is one of the reasons why Doctor Who is in the toilet, because the shabby writing, and these people just don't seem to care. I'm actually beginning to think now that all they're caring about is the money and possible pensions, because some of them are getting to that pensionable age. Let's be honest here. They don't, like you're saying in the chat, I really don't think they are putting the attention that they did do beforehand into it again now, because they're too busy with agendas. Speaking of which, a lot of you managed to get through the Chibnall era. And of course, this week we were talking about the fact that Bog Fanish have brought back Jody Whittaker and Mandip Gill to their ever increasing ongoing range of audio stories. I'm trying to be on the fence and trying to be kind, but I just have no time for this company at all after what they did to Jimmy Dreyfus, John Barrowman, and others, allegedly. But anyway, I've got no time for them. But anyway, that was the news we talked about the other night, wasn't it, Paul? And since then, of course, again, other stuff has come off the back of that. And it all can just... It's very unwise in a sense, because it's sort of... a lot of people have just remembered how bad they felt when they saw that particular series. And there's been lots of stuff coming out about it, just like we were talking about with bad writing. This one comes across from Doctor Who's Jody Whittaker, however, praises Chris Chibnall's beautiful Tasmin writing. It didn't come... Tasmin. It didn't come out of nowhere, she says. So this is Jody Whittaker defending, again, Chris Chibnall and his writing.
To bring you up to date with that a little bit, JT, because I know you didn't watch that era, but I think the Tasman idea came through fan speculation and he jumped on that and wrote it into the series. So
Yes.
fans, or so-called fans, were clamoring for the Doctor to be a lesbian. And basically, that's how.
Well, from my research I did this week, Paul, you're spot on. Apart from the fact that also it was noticed by Mandip Gill on social media, who mentioned it to Whittaker, and they took it to Chibnall as well. And therefore he went, okay, the leads are all right with it. Let's look at the article, though. And the article does come again from radiotimes.com. Jody Whittaker has heaped praise on Doctor Who's former showrunner Chris Chibnall for the beautiful way in which he wrote the scenes between Whittaker's 13th Doctor and Yasmin Khan, played by Mandip Gill. In The Legend of the Sea Devils, Whittaker's penultimate episode, Yaz admitted she had romantic feelings for the Doctor. While it didn't flourish into a romantic relationship, plenty of fans, please do me a favor, loved the scenes between the pair of them. Speaking to radiotimes.com ahead of her and Gill's Bogfanish debut in the upcoming 13th Doctor Adventures, Whittaker said, I think it was a really treasured ending because me and Mandip, you can tell where she's from. You know,
Mandip
that is
and
not.
Yeah.
I think it was really treasured ending because me and Mandip started it together, and so to end the series together, or to end our version of it together, was really beautiful. I thought that Chris's writing of the relationship development between Yaz and the Doctor was really beautiful and peppered throughout the seasons, so it didn't come out of nowhere. And I think that just naturally bounced off how we are with each other. And I think that being so well received from the fans has been brilliant. These people live in cloud cuckoo land. It's been received by a minority of fans that we're also going to be talking about in this show. Good grief. Even now, obviously, they've got new people to invest in and new adventures to go on, but we've had wonderful interactions recently with different Doctor Who fans who still find that relationship between these two characters very meaningful and impactful on them. Whittaker, who also recently said she's protective of how she bowed out of the show, you can tell me why in a minute, Paul, is currently recording for Bogfanish with her former co-star Gill. Gill said the fact that we get to revisit and go on different adventures as the Doctor and Yaz is really exciting because it's a very unique job in that way. In most jobs, you film it and it ends and that's it. But obviously with this, it has an entire world and life outside of the TV show. As for whether they'll get to explore that relationship more in audio form, while they're still mid-recording, Whittaker and Gill said they're focused on the action and adventures in hand for now, but never say never.
Well, I have to say, I'm interested that the people thought the writing was really good about the relationship. It wasn't at all. It was really ham-fisted and sort of shoehorned in. And I don't even think, if they developed it over the time, it would have made more sense. I'd rather not have it in. It was said before many times, the Doctor's asexual. He doesn't have relationships with people. He's an alien, etc., etc. But if they're going to put it in, they had to make it more to build up as a development of the characters, not just shoehorned in 2 episodes. So that's what they did really effectively. So,
really, that's that again, lazy writing. It's stupid. But again, why sexualize the Doctor? Even the female version of the Doctor, which I don't count at all, and I'm beginning to get that way with Gatwa as well, to be quite honest. Thank you, Lisa Pertwee's gal, for your super chat here, saying, "Can you imagine John Pertwee regenerating into Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor? That would be a dream come true for me. Any thoughts on that?" I prefer John regenerating into Tom. Call me old-fashioned, but I like that mix. I think, though, that both Pertwee and Tom would have approved of Capaldi because they both knew him. They both knew him. So, yeah.
And Capaldi's very, very similar to Pertwee in a lot of respects, isn't he? In terms of
and Tom,
and Tom as well. So I think that coming straight after Pertwee would be a bit of a mistake in terms of the order of Doctors because they're too similar. You know what I mean?
He was something like 15, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
In those days, that wouldn't have happened. These days, it probably could.
It probably would. Yeah.
It's ticking a box. It probably could. If there is ever a next one in this iteration, it could be 12-year-old next time. Heaven's sake. But thank you for that, Lisa. Yeah, I like the fact that we know Pertwee and Tom Baker approved of.
Well, there's some great photographs of Capaldi with both Tom and John, aren't they? From various, mainly at Capaldi's house, I think, wasn't it? I love it. So,
yeah. There's those that go in there. Garbage is saying to us, back to that Thasmin, nothing happened, and it shouldn't either, because again, we're going back to this whole thing that's been carried on by RTD about the sexualization of an alien, of our beloved Time Lord. And these people are so fickle. running the show. I don't know if Lisa agrees with me on this one, but these people running the show now and over the last few years are so fickle that they have to include this stuff to show their own righteousness. And we as fans don't want it. So when that Radio Times article is talking about, oh, the fans loved it, the fans loved it, the fans loved it. What? What fans? What fans? A minority of screaming infants, possibly. Juveniles, maybe. The ones we're going to be talking about soon in this particular show. But they're not the majority. And you shouldn't be... You shouldn't be pandering to this minority. I know it happens in society every single day, but this is one of the problems, I think of the world today.
You should be looking to a wider audience to generate viewing figures. Surely that would make more sense.
Yeah, and again, it ties in. Sorry, Paul. Again, it ties in with the fact that the British public don't recognise their doctors anymore. They've had a female one which they didn't like, and now they've got this one which they don't like, so they've just tuned out completely.
The bit in the article I don't quite understand is what she means by being protective about how she left the series. I don't understand what that meant.
I'll ask you what that meant, because I don't know.
Because I'm not sure either, because it's bizarre, because she left and David Tennant took over. And that's a bit like, if that's not a kick in the face, I don't know what is, because it's like, you've been replaced by one of the most popular doctors because your doctor was rubbish. I mean, that's what it comes across to me personally, but, don't you think?
Well, I don't know if they will look at things like that, because they're all pally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she would have been briefed and she would have been told, and this is what we're going to do. And I mean, we can all speculate that it was a desperate attempt bringing Tennant back to try and keep it going, and it worked to a little bit in the Starbeats. People did the audience increased slightly, but then it all left towards the end of the episode again.
Well, that's another thing that wasn't explained, was it? Why the Doctor was the 14th Doctor, like number 10. It's just bizarre. It really is.
And why did his clothes change?
Yeah. I can forgive that. They did that in Power of the Daleks, I suppose. That was never explained. But it when you listen to that, when you watch that regeneration, you can hear like electricity and stuff. And I always thought, is that the toy maker forcing this change on this Doctor? But that could have been an explanation, but it wasn't. But
no, it wasn't, and it should have been explained.
Yeah,
and again, it's the payoff thing as well. Not that people were actually that bothered, because they just didn't stay with it. And I think the whole Chibnall era was the start of this nonsense, wasn't it? And we all know, well, we can all speculate again, it was supposed to end there. I really wish, Who viewers, it had. I really wish it had finished on that clifftop thing. Paul Holgate is into us. It would have been the Rainbow Alphabet fans who were clamoring for it, and the obsessive ones as well. Not all of them. The normal ones like me don't want to see that in our sci-fi because we know who the Doctor is. But these are, and we're going to come to this as well, so I'll probably repeat myself. But some of these idiots that would have been clamoring around for this are so ignorant. They think they're there to change the world, not realizing that the world changed in the 80s and 90s, and they've just ruined it and actually taken us back 40 years, and things are worse off now because of them. These freaks, these absolute idiots that are around now. I agree with Sean here, who's saying these people are deluded. Really, really are. And Mark Milford is saying to us, fantasy and sci-fi heroes must have a costume or styling showing they are easily identifiable and fit well into the universe. Well, even Jodie Whittaker has a sort of uniform costume, didn't she?
Yeah, she did, yeah.
I don't know why I changed that. Stephen Braddock is also saying, beautiful, it came out of nowhere. Blah, blah, blah. And Terry Tees is saying to us here, Paul, so glad I gave up on Whittaker Who halfway through. I just, problem being you're right. They just can't shut up. No, they're obsessed. They're absolutely obsessed. I can't understand who they think is going to buy these things. There is so much output coming through from this company. I say company. There is so much output. Who's going to buy this stuff? I reckon they're going to get like 100 sales of this from obsessed female fans.
Well, I mean, without a doubt, I think up until this iteration, that the Whittaker era was the worst era of Doctor Who ever, and the quality of the writing was appalling. Right. And who liked it was like 3 people. So, like you say, 100 people are going to buy it if you're lucky, maybe less. But Bog Fanish, to use your name for them, there's so much stuff coming out, like you say, they've swamped the market. So even if you were into it, you can't afford to buy everything, so there's just too much content. And it's like Disney Plus, allegedly. It's content, quantity, with no quality.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that they're not selling that many anyway.
Yeah.
But that's just what I'm hearing. Mark Jones is saying to us here, Jodie said when she was given literally the role, I read the scripts and they blew my mind. The best scripts I had ever read. I would hate to see the worst she had read. Well, gosh, that says something.
Is this the doing the TV version, not
the TV version? That'll be the TV
okay.
version. I think. I would
God
think.
Almighty, yes, I agree with Mark there, definitely.
And Paul Richards saying they're obsessed with set lives and not telling good stories. They absolutely are, because that's where we are now. All this identity politics and all this monster, all this ridiculousness that's around now. It's monstrous because it's being enforced on us all. You know, and it shouldn't be anybody's business, but they seem to think it has to be, don't they?
Yeah, I don't care about the Doctor's sexuality at all. I don't want to know about it. Just ignore it. Okay, I know he's got grandchildren, blah blah blah. I don't care, you know. But yeah,
for 26 years he didn't have one.
Yeah.
You know, because he was an alien hanging around with humans the majority of the time, who were actually, in the sense of the world, not want to be snobbish, quite below him, beneath him.
And even with his own kind, I'm not interested. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sean is saying to us here, Whittaker and Gill are like Marley's ghosts. They never end. They just keep haunting us. The brilliant thing about this, though, as I said on the show the other day, is if you're not interested, you don't have to buy it. You really don't have to buy it. And that's the brilliant thing. Just like, you know, in a sense, you didn't need to switch it on the television.
Yeah.
But there you go. Excuse me. Thank you all for your chat this evening. It's nice to see you all. Julianne is saying to us here, the best thing about the fan-imposed relationship is that 13 gave Yaz the brush off. Well, they would have to, because it's the Doctor. You know, and then she goes and regenerates into a fella again. So where would that leave? I mean, didn't Yaz know that the character regenerates and she'd been 12 men before her?
Well, she kind of found out there's in the Power of the Doctor, there's a fans kind of united group type thing, and they all talk about the Doctor, and the wonderful late William Russell was in it, and someone said it's a she, and he said, "Did you say she?" So there was a reference to the fact he was actually male, so she should know at that point. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go on that one. We've got Paul Rose here saying to us here, JT, I think the agendas are the briefing and starting point now. The story is something they begrudgingly tried to come up with as a backdrop to subverting the expectations. Stop it. We don't need it. I totally agree with that. However, we are going to come up to an article that, Paul, you might find very interesting from somebody that blatantly does need it. Let's have a look here. Lisa saying, she was agreeing with me on that one. Thank you. And Dalek Eye is with us. Why are these people so obsessed with sex and relationships? I just want adventures, monsters, and pure escapism. And you know what, Dalek Eye? So does the majority of fandom and also the public. They just want the escapism. But these people are so righteous, so wrapped up in their bending the knee, virtue signaling nonsense that we've covered a lot over the last wee while here on Headlines, that they're not going to let it go, because the rest of us need to think the same. We have to be dictated to. We have to be on the same page as them. Otherwise, we're going to be, abused and called names. It's shocking, isn't it? And we can't just have the pure escapism now, because we need to be lectured to. We need to be told we are wrong. Our thinker's wrong. We are this and that. And we need to come up to speed with them. It's just shocking.
Well, as you said, it started in the Chibnall era, and there was lots of politics and lots of kind of lecturing and that, and it's just got steadily worse.
Well, it has, hasn't it? And we are now where we are now, and there's no audience. There's no audience at all. What we got here as well, Lex Kane is saying to us, Jodie and Gatwa don't have the fans which Tom and John and so on. Of course they don't. No, it's a minority. And we're seeing that now as well with Gatwa, because nobody's come back. That's why I keep saying, everybody, this show's done. You know, I know certain fans don't like me saying that, and they call me for everything when I point it out, saying it's done, it's over. These are the dying days, and it's a very painful public death because they don't want to cut the switch yet, and they should do, and they should have done.
There was one thing I saw recently which was quite refreshing, though. It was nothing to do with New Who, but to do with Classic Who. Tom was at an event on Saturday, and his first face-to-face event has been in years since before COVID, and he's out meeting fans and now at 90, which is fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've seen some of those pictures. It's absolutely wonderful, all set up there. So that was nice. If you were there and you've met the man himself over the weekend, I hope you've enjoyed your little encounter with the legend that is Tom Baker. I've said it before, says Graham, but a huge attraction to me back in the 1970s was the fact that the hero of Doctor Who wasn't a stereotype with a romantic interest and excessive flashiness. Totally agree.
Yeah. He's not Captain Kirk. That's the thing. So
no,
a
he's
girl
not
on every planet, or a relationship on every planet. No, not at all.
Yeah. And that was the beauty of Doctor Who, because it stood him out. And that's why Doctor Who actually attracted an awful lot of same-sex attracted boys, young lads that would turn out to be gay, because the Doctor had all these pretty women around him at all times, but there wasn't any sort of interaction with them. There was no play with them at all, and they've missed the point.
But said before, you don't identify with your sexuality. That's one part of your life, not the be all and end all of your life. And you can have male and female friends without making it a sexual thing.
Exactly. Yeah, Paul Holgate is saying to us here, all it needs is a good, strong character actor, male, female, straight, gay, whatever, but they play the part as the Doctor. Yeah, I mean, that's the point, isn't it, Paul? We don't want to know about the actor's personal opinions or personal life. If they're a good actor, they can build a character and play the Doctor. That's all we as fans care about. But no, we've had two very recent versions of the Doctor played by these actors who have come along and impressed their opinions on us. They're from a completely different way of life, a completely different generation, but they've alienated everybody because they're not disciplined in the fact that you keep your opinions at the door, and when you've got to understand that not everybody thinks like you, because that's democracy. And these people just don't like democracy. They're really against it in my eyes at all, because they have to say, no, you have to think like us. You have to be on our page or you're not there. Even the magazine's doing that now. And it's no wonder it's going downhill. And I've got no sympathy for it. Sorry, it's not Doctor Who, says the Forbidden Man. No, it's nowhere near Doctor Who, is it? And Julianne is saying to us here, protective of how she left comes from an interview on Digital Spy, meaning protective of how she left with the acceptance of her regeneration and unrequited relationship end with Yaz. Does that mean anything to you, Paul? Because I don't know.
Well, I mean, when in the episode she does, in the serials one, she explains about we just want to be friends, and then the regeneration I feel a bit with Jodie was a bit odd, because I'm still not quite sure what happened, how she was, whether it was to do with the creature involved or the master shooting at her and stuff like that. So in terms of regeneration, I'm not quite understood why she regenerated in the first place, because it was all a bit ham-fisted. So,
bad writing again.
Bad writing again, yeah. So I'm not quite sure what was going on. So I don't understand the article at all, really, to be honest. But
yeah. Well, thanks for that, Julianne. Yeah, I can't comment because I didn't see it. I have no intention of watching that particular version of the show at all. Paul Rose is saying to us, there is a lot of wokery in the media right now, a hell of a lot. But in other genres, there is still some good stuff being made. I don't know why these beloved franchises have been specifically targeted. It's just infected show business quicker and far more powerful than industry. Industries are now catching up to where they are, unfortunately, because now they're spending thousands and thousands of pounds to pay these DEI roles. HR is no longer HR. HR now is a DEI officer, and you can get taken to this DI officer or HR officer now, who's been on all this training here in the UK, probably paid for by that awful organization called Stonewall. And you can be called ists and ots and phobes and probably fired, because, I mean, I saw over the weekend, it was Glasgow Pride here in Scotland over the weekend, and all the usual nonsense came out. They've spent thousands and thousands of pounds, Glasgow City Council. What are you doing on that awful progressive flag painted across a particular road in the merchant city in Glasgow? And the streets are filthy. You can trip up and slip up in Glasgow over what they call paving stones. There are people homeless in the city, and they're going around painting that bloody flag everywhere. It just doesn't make any sense. That's what DEI people have done. ScotRail, You can look up a video there. It's cringeworthy. Scott Rail saying, "Oh, we're all this and we're all this. Oh, give it a rest. When you're not a safe space." Because if we said, especially, gay men like myself who will come out and say, you're talking nonsense, you're not providing a safe space for us, because all you're doing is actually affirming a cult behavior and the dictates of a cult, saying you must use those pronouns, you must do this. It's all gone to pot. Again, what I said at the top of the show, the lunatics are now in charge of everything.
Can I stop you just for a second? I've seen a message from your admin people, from Garbage and from Kirsty. I believe my signal is having an issue, so I did see it. So I'm gonna come in and out. I'll be back with you in a second. Okay.
Okay, so, mate. You do that. Okay. You do that. Okay, you do that. In the meantime, let's have a look at the chats we've got here. Paul Holgate is saying to me here, I agree the series should have ended on Durdle Door. Thank you. That's what I couldn't remember. With Jodie starting to regenerate and then cut before Weaselface turned up again. Oh, do you know, I'd say that's harsh, Paul, but do you know what? He deserves it now after his very public rants recently, hasn't he? And Robert is saying to me, I bet most of the activists still have their parents to complain to or rebel against. No real life experience yet. Totally agree. Totally agree. And Matthew Burrows is saying, has RTD not realized that the reason it has a gay fan base is that the Doctor was asexual? Totally, because he's an alien. Absolute alien. And I'll say it again, back in 2004 when it was announced he was bringing the show back, because he was known, as they still keep churning out today, Matthew, the success of the late 1990 drama Queer as Folk, which really did launch his career, didn't it? Okay. And I remember a journalist from one of the newspapers at the time going on about, oh gosh, are you going to make the Doctor gay? And RTD turned around at the time and said, what a stupid thing to say. What a stupid question. Of course I'm not going to do that. Why am I going to do that? Move on 20 years. And that's exactly what he's done now. Exactly what he's done. And again, it's the hypocrisy of that man. It's just absolutely ridiculous. He drives me insane. I hope that's all working for you now, Paul.
I do, and I've not regenerated. I'm still the same old me. So there we are. But that's just for the admin people. There we are. So thank you, Garbage and Kirsty, for letting me know about that. So
Stuart's saying to us here, Stuart Barham, nice to see you, mate. I remember the BBC's tagline before Whittaker started. It's about time. I thought that was 1996. Did they do it again?
I think they did it again. Yeah. They did a really pointed glass ceiling trailer, which was
that was awful.
How subtle was that? So,
I did see that. I remember thinking, hang on a minute. I read somewhere last week that you said it wasn't about the politics. It wasn't about doing that. And there's the glass ceiling one. And didn't she just go, oops? And nobody got it. Nobody got the gag. It was just so stupid. Anyway, there's something else she's been saying here. Again, from radiotimes.com. Here it is here. Doctor Who's Jodie Whittaker feels protective over 13 and Yaz ending. It was a really beautiful thing. No, is that the one I've just done?
Yeah.
I think that's the one I just did, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So sorry about that. But there we go. That's the whole point of that there. It just makes me, it just drives me mad. All this nonsense that they're putting through, and what it's all about. And I just think, this is why the show, going back to the point there, this is why it's having problems now. This is why people aren't watching, because these people that have been in it since 2017 have just not bothered to actually look at the bigger audience and say, right, okay, there is a massive audience for this, not just in the UK, but worldwide. How do we entertain them? And
I think they've just missed.
I
think they've just missed the point, haven't they? That's the whole thing. They've just missed the point of the program and what it's there for. They've just plastered it with all the agenda and issues and all that kind of stuff and message stuff. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all it actually is. It's absolutely outrageous. Still not ginger, says Barry Stroud. Yeah,
it may be referring to me, I think, but it's only got to hear. That's what you mean. But
exactly. And Nibbles is joining us. Hello, Nibbles. Woke idiots, you will be like us. That's it. That's exactly what they're trying to do. We see it all the time now. And now, unfortunately, it's in our businesses. It's now, unfortunately, in our politics. It's not just in our entertainment now, because people are not really thinking about what this DEI does. And now it's in real life. And we are seeing the effects of this DEI in our real life in our country now. And I have to say, I do not recognize Britain at all. This is not the Britain I grew up in. And only today on social media, you won't believe this, I commented on a certain thing by saying, no, this is ridiculous. If you live in Britain, You should value British values. I really do that. You should follow British laws. You are not above the British law. And then I got attacked by some chap who's been in the country for 8 months saying, it's not your country anymore, it's ours. Now, that was frightening. No, it's not. I've lived here all my life. No, it's not yours at all. You are a guest in our country. And if you decide to stay in our country, you contribute to our country, but you follow British values and laws. And yet I'm now an ist, of course, because of that. But I'll stand on that hill. I don't like that attitude. That frightens me. No, it's not your country at all. You have to integrate. It's like, if any of us moved to another country, we would do our very best to integrate into that country's customs, into that, if you move to Europe and stuff, you do, don't you? You become part of the culture.
Yeah.
Here, I find it very concerning as to what's going on. And this is all because of DEI. Let's face it, that's the truth. It's all because of DEI. We've got to be, I think we've rolled over for 20 years now in the United Kingdom because of this. So we've got to be tolerant. We've got to be accepting.
I think we've always been a tolerant country. That's why people come here in the first place. And it's just become...
And also because they get things for free.
Yeah.
Let's face it, our healthcare, they can get benefits now. We all know that. All paid for, by the way, by the taxpayers. Those people that are working in the country pay tax. Taxpayers pay for our social security system, our NHS, everything.
But that is quite scary if people are saying that it's not your country anymore. That seems really bizarre because you couldn't get away with that in the country where they came from, no doubt.
No, absolutely not. And I'm very concerned, but I blame all this whole thing that's been going on for 20 years. And we've got to this point now where it's got so intense that this whole DEI thing, it's like somebody was saying in the chat, a particular lady got arrested this weekend for calling out all the nonsense that was going outside of her house, allegedly. I don't know the full story, but she got arrested when the rioters didn't. In fact, the rioters, the police force in that area ran away from them. This is all because of, I swear, honestly, tell me if I'm going mad, Who viewers. I genuinely believe it's because of this whole DEI quota where, everybody is racist except, where all white people are racist. And yet if anything comes back onto the white people, that's allowed. We just have to take that.
That's what I got from that episode, Dot and Bubble, that it just appeared to be that all white people were racist, and that isn't the case at all. It's people are racist from all sorts of ethnicities. That's the problem.
Totally, and we're seeing a lot more of it now. How can you be allowed to come into a country and get away with that? How can you be allowed to come into a country and break their laws and get away with it? Because people in authority are terrified of the word racist. They're terrified of being seen on social media as the bad party here. They're supposed to be defending us. And this weekend is just... They haven't, in my eyes. I think they've let us all down. Anyway, moved on from that particular point, but I do think that's what's the problem is. That's in show business. It's been there for quite some time, and they are doubling down and tripling down, and soon to be quadrupling down, I am sure. Schempmeister, it's nice to see you. I had a few fans on X insisting to me that Doctor Who is still the BBC's flagship show, and that they'll continue even if Disney pull out and they can't get a third party to kick in the money. It's delusional. To an extent, it really is.
Yeah, how can it be a flagship show if it's dying in the ratings? That seems madness.
Look what happened to Top Gear. That was a flagship show. Look what's going on with Strictly Come Dancing. How long has that got to go now? Again, because of their obsession with DEI, it ruined that show. Also bringing in too many, in my opinion, wokists into the show as well. Too many, how are you supposed to dance with somebody if you can't touch them?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. Not that I watch it, so I'm not really in tune with everything that's going on there. But that was a flagship show. How long has it got left to go? Doctor Who hasn't got that long to go. They could. I still agree that they could continue. They could continue. The BBC studios with a partnership like Bad Wolf could continue to do Doctor Who.
At the end of the day, the BBC is a business, BBC Studios are a business.
Yes.
If they don't treat it like a business, then it'll go down the toilet, won't it? That's the thing. And it has to make money for the BBC for it to be viable, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does. I mean, the whole thing about it is with BBC Studios, they are, as you say, there to make money. They're just not listening to the right people. And I've said it before, the BBC knows it's got something with Doctor Who, but they've never really got it right. They were almost there
And I
in
think,
2008, but that was a BBC One show then. It was
yeah,
BBC Wales. It wasn't BBC Studios. They've never got it right. And this obsession they have, Paul, with making it global because they think that's going to make them more money.
yeah.
You listen, BBC Studios, you've got to wake up. You've got it wrong. You've got the wrong people in there doing it for you. It's not making you money. It's not popular.
But I think bringing back Russell T Davies in their eyes certainly was the promise of it returning to the glory days of 2008. And it
Exactly.
never did. So, and they were hoping to make money from that, and they've not. So,
No, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing about this is that, you know, I think they're going to be very, very, they should be aware now that it's not going the way they all assumed it was going to do. You know,
because even if they are delusional, they still can't think that 2 million viewers is a good overnight figure at all, regardless of 28-day nonsense.
Neville's pointing out basically, JT Gatwa is saying exactly the same thing. It's not your Doctor Who anymore. Exactly. And we're listening, we're hearing it, and people are going away. You know,
But whose Doctor Who is it then? Really, who's it for? If no one's watching it, who are you making it for? If they've not have that mythical audience we talk about all the time.
well, the mythical audience is still mythical. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments in the chat here. Really, really great to see you all. Very varied as well. So that's brilliant. But on that point you've just made there, let's have a look at this now, because there is part of this mythical audience. We've touched on this already. Is this lot from Varsity? Now, if you're regular to the show, you know I don't like this word because I find it offensive. Okay, and I think that the word queer is used by the TQ cult, especially because they can't say same-sex attracted because that could be allegedly, you know, phobic, if you know what I'm saying. And I also think it's used by people who are heterosexual who have to have some sort of a label to make them feel special or validated. So there you are. I'm just putting that in a nutshell for you again. But this is the article from Varsity. Queer kisses in Doctor Who are nothing new. Disney should not get the credit for something that has long been part of the show. So this is the mythical audience that we're addressing here now, because this is written by this child. This is alleged journalist Cassia Gibson writing for Varsity. She's graduated from Cambridge University. That's all I can find out about her. But yeah, she's been grown up in this very privileged, spoiled, bratish generation, as I'm sure you can already tell from the headline.
Can I say that Gibson's no relation, though, is it, to Millie Gibson?
No, no relation at all.
Okay, just checking.
Let's have a look at this article that she wrote for Varsity, and then we'll have a discussion about it, everybody. Here we go. As my neighbours who ported me can confirm, I don't know what that means. As my neighbours who ported me can confirm, my friends and I have sung, shouted and screamed our way through most of the new season of Doctor Who, and were perhaps loudest during Rogue. The episode saw Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor develop a romance with the suave, red hot, D&D nerd, really hot, and bounty hunter played by Jonathan Groff, culminating in a tear-jerking kiss and tragically abrupt ending. Like clockwork, an onslaught of newspaper articles, which have since been hastily edited, not strictly true, celebrated the first same-sex kiss in the show's 60-year history, just in time for Pride Month and a herald of the new Disney-fied era to come. Anyone else feeling nauseous already? Except it isn't.
Me.
Yeah, the first same-sex kiss occurred 19 years ago in the explosive season 1 finale between Christopher Eccleston's Doctor, a butch icon, we can agree, and Captain Jack Harkness. Subsequently, there have been kisses between the Doctor and Rory, Jenny and Vastra, Bill and Heather, and Jake and Adam, without mentioning the spin-offs, Torchwood and Class. Listing all the kisses in those shows would make this article unreadably long. It's already unreadably long to my eyes, actually. Thank you, darling. To sum it up, snappily, the articles were wrong. However, when it comes to Doctor Who, brevity is not my forte. It's not simply the inaccuracy I take issue with. My main problem is the credit given to Disney. It's common knowledge that Disney takes rainbow capitalism to the extreme. They might make their profile picture rainbow colored during June or sell something rainbow t-shirts. However, they will simultaneously limit meaningful queer representation in their media and donate profits to politicians promoting anti-LGBTQ plus laws. Crediting Disney with Doctor Who's first queer kiss plays into the narrative and ignores the work of actual queer people long before Disney got near the show. When Russell T Davies took control in 2005, the pressure was on. There had been no Doctor Who since the 1996 TV movie and no episodes since '89. So Davies, a gay Doctor Who fan whose previous success came from Queer as Folk, wrote that what he knew: aliens, spaceships, and men kissing. Having the Doctor and Rogue kiss remains a meaningful decision. Following years of vitriol directed at Jody Whittaker's Doctor and general complaints about the show going woke, it's vital that its message of acceptance and love isn't lost. But suggesting Rogue is the first episode to do so ignores the bravery of the first season's kiss, when the show was still in its infancy, barely 2 years after Section 28 was repealed and 8 years before gay marriage was legalized and God, in England and Wales. I don't know why these kids are talking about Section 28, because they've got no bloody clue about it. It's just as though it's come up in conversation somewhere and they've tagged on about it. I lived through it. How dare they bring this up? It's absolute nonsense. And there's another problem. I told you I couldn't be brief. Strange. The specific focus on kissing. Of course, it's a useful signifier of a relationship, especially for the media illiterate. It makes queerness so obvious it cannot be denied. But it also highlights the sexualization of LGBTQ plus characters in media by ignoring the fact that there's enough queerness in Doctor Who to fill a TARDIS, and those characters are equally valid without a kiss. Characters who spend an episode fighting aliens and becoming fan favorites before revealing their sexuality at the end. Canton Everett Delaware III, my beloved, serve as reminders that you can't always tell who around you is queer. We're like zygons hiding in human shells. So basically what this child is telling me is that she's queer. I'd like to know why. Because same-sex attraction isn't queer in any way, shape, or form, you pathetic fool. We'll continue. Casual references to same-sex partners from River Song and Clara Oswald allow characters to embrace their queerness without having to prove anything. If not for the unfortunate cancellation of the Sarah Jane Adventures, Luke Smith would have been one of the first queer characters on children's television, extending the much-needed portrayal to a younger audience. Really? The much-needed portrayal to a younger audience. Recently, the 13th Doctor and Yaz admitted their feelings for each other and provided very necessary representation to pining sapphics. Good God. The fact they have never kissed changes nothing. Looking around my room while writing, I see a lesbian flag, a TARDIS clock, 17 Doctor Who postcards, a rainbow flag, 2 messages in Gallifreyan from my friend and my partner, and a Dalek. Well, quite frankly, you should be locked up. And it should come as a surprise to no one, not least anyone I've cornered to discuss it, that queer representation in Doctor Who is close to my heart. I adore how explicitly queer recent episodes have been. The 14th Doctor calling Isaac Newton hot, Ruby and 15 fighting over Ricky September, and the gorgeous Regency-era kiss have all resulted in my friend group grabbing each other's arms and squealing. Again, I can only apologise to my neighbours. But the queerness isn't new. It's as old as the show, quite literally, as An Unearthly Child was directed by Waris Hussein, a gay man, who all the way back in 1963. So please continue to enjoy this campy new era, and let us hope we see more of Ncuti Gatwa dancing to Kylie Minogue soon. But maybe take a trip in the TARDIS back to previous eras of the show, and remember that it has always been firmly and loudly queer. Someone pass me a bucket.
I can say I have no problem with people coming out and finding their sexuality, etc., etc. I've no problem with that in the slightest. And what I find about this is the fact that if you look back at Doctor Who's history pre New Who, there wasn't anything at all that we said from 63 to 89, regardless of the fact that Waris Hussein was a gay Indian man. You know, he didn't put that into the show. You know. It was great that he got a job as a gay man in the 60s, which is fabulous. But I don't understand this constant labelling or having it in that program itself. I don't understand it at all.
Well, this is the audience they're after. This child who calls herself a journalist, Cassia Gibson. Remember the other night we were talking about our other favourite one, Asia, who's always going on about this, and it said in her article that she is admittedly progressive. Regressive is the word I would lose for you, dear. But you know, there's this whole thing here. Somebody in the chat said, how did these kids get a job? How did they get into journalism? Well, for both of them, it seems like they both went to college and that was it. They went to university. And I'm blaming DEI. Dalek I said, "Oh, I can feel my skin crawl already." I mean, you know, there's that whole thing. It made me sick. Made me sick to read that. It is. I mean, Matthew's saying it here. These people are such hypocrites. They cannot forgive.
Yeah.
Tear jerking says problem being get stuffed, and Kirsty's saying bored already.
Yeah.
It was just. I mean, don't
Even
make me read it out again.
Even going back to the references she mentioned about Nuhu with Vastra and etc., all that kind of stuff, or even the Captain Jack kissing the Ninth Doctor, it's like none of these kisses particularly were over sexualized, unlike the one in Rogue, which was, as you said yourself, was a real sexualized kiss.
That is lustful.
Yeah.
That's a lustful one. It's absolutely disgusting. It's not the Doctor at all. That's not the Doctor's character. The one that they all go back to, the one with Christopher Eccleston. Thank you, Matt, the Silent Wing Music King, that says queer just looks like a bad word. It's a homophobic slur. And it's used by people like this young lady who have no idea what it means. It hasn't been reclaimed. I don't care what they say. The majority of sensible same-sex attracted men and women don't like the word because there's nothing queer about being same-sex attracted. There's nothing queer about being homosexual. We got over that in the 80s and 90s. So we shouldn't now be saying, oh, you're queer. There's nothing queer about us at all. Thank you very much. These children need to grow up. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just because you're putting black nail varnish on and you're waltzing around calling yourself queer, that's an insult. It's still a homophobic slur. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the Christopher Eccleston thing with John Barrowman.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a kiss. It was the character of Jack saying goodbye because he was about to die. Because he did it with Rose as well. He went back to them and said, woof, goodbye.
Yeah.
That was a goodbye scene. So he kissed them. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't lustful. It was a goodbye. Look at the context of this thing we call a story, you entitled brat.
And likewise, the one with Vastra and Jenny, the one in Deep Breath, I think it was, in the context, it was done in the context of the story. It was done in a way that I think Vastra was trying to give Jenny oxygen to keep her alive because they had to hold their breath. Remember that in Deep Breath? You remember that bit?
I don't. I actually don't because I've written it all off, of course, in my head.
So again, that was in the context of the story, and it wasn't like it was in Rogue. It wasn't sexualized at all.
Exactly.
But it got the season into trouble though because it was a lesbian kiss, which is sad and bizarre. Really.
Well, it is because we should have been over that. I mean, Brookie did that years ago.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
The first time, you know, so we should. And Emmerdale does it every other bloody minute, from what I can tell. But again, in the same episode that they're talking about there, the Christopher Eccleston Doctor locks lips with Rose to take the time vortex out of her because he's a Time Lord. He's an alien. His physiognomy is completely different. He can do that because he knows it'll kill him, but he knows it will also help him to regenerate. You know, he's going to be able to. Whereas she would just die. It's all in the context of the story, but they have to see sexuality in everything. And as Paul is saying here, the Doctor and Captain Jack was never really a sexual kiss.
Yeah.
You know, we've also got Peter Venkman saying, already I can't take this chick's writing seriously. Oh, she wouldn't like you calling her that, though, would she?
No, she wouldn't like that.
They just destroyed, says Paul Rose, the legacy characters, including Luke, in the sequels. How do you have the three main original principles in them, but never have them together? No plan. That's how. Barry Stroud is saying to us, oh, look, the future of balanced journalism is secure. I get what you're saying there as well. That's quite funny, that one. Cute Pryor is saying the whole thing there was puke. And Paul saying to us here, Paul Richards, please someone tell RTD the Doctor is also a children's hero and this sexualization is wrong for a family show. Now, again, if Ian was here, he would agree with you with that and say, but that's the point, wouldn't it? Ian would be insistent saying that's it. He's trying to get to that through a family show so that the questions are around. Because don't forget, Paul, you saw him on one of those behind the scenes things where he said they had to get to the children with these messages to make it normal.
Yeah.
They are undoing these people, including this young lady, Cassia Gibson, allegedly, you know, well, it's an opinion. You're undoing all the good work that we did in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and into the beginning of this millennia. And I don't understand why you're doing that, why you're obsessed with all this. I mean, it's obviously you and your little friends there are just watching Doctor Who to get your kicks, you know, and it's quite perverse in a way. There is nothing about mine or any of my same-sex attracted friends, whether they be men or women's lives, that you should be getting some sort of kick out of. There's nothing about it. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with you at all. I can't stand these girly type things, you know, or these people that call themselves allies, or, you know, she says she's got a flag in a room and all this sort of stuff. Well, nothing to do with me, dear. You're part of a cult. You know, got nothing at all in common.
I think education's appropriate, and to make things acceptable is appropriate. But I think in terms of being in Doctor Who, it needs to be age appropriate as well, don't you think?
Totally. And I don't think it should be in Doctor Who at all. This is not what Doctor Who's about. Doctor Who's about a Time Lord in time and space battling monsters. I've said it many, many times. It looks as if I'm going to have to keep saying that until somebody actually brings the show back and understands that. Peter Venkman is saying, did she just major in mediocre journalism 101? And Schempmeister is saying, what is the obsession that these people have with making the show first and foremost? The Star Beast was laughably poor due to hitting the audience over the head with and trans ideology. Totally. But that is what we're dealing with. And in that article there, I think it proves the point completely. This is the audience that they are trying to go. And they're a minority. They're that big. That big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the 3 people who are watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you need a bucket yet, says Peter Venkman to me, or step away from the camera for a few? Yes, thank you for that. It's hard. It's a hard read, that, because it's just, it gets me angry because it's absolute nonsense, and it's in an alleged journalism. I was going to say newspaper, but it's not really a newspaper, Varsity. We have covered Varsity on the show before, and it's all about this. But, you know, when they see something like this, when the producers see something like this, they'll go, oh, yeah, that means we're a success because that's our audience.
Yeah.
Cute Pryor wants to know, what does queer actually mean? Well, as a very wise lesbian said in 2023, everything right of the B is heterosexual.
I think queer suggests strange rather than being in any way, shape or form a complimentary thing to say. You know what I mean?
It's not complimentary.
That's what I mean.
And exactly, yeah, it's not complimentary. So, and back in the day, of course, it was the word that they used to call us when they were kicking our heads in. Yeah. Now, that's very difficult to get over and very difficult to forgive, especially when you've lost people through that. As I have, as Problem Being has, we've lost friends. And we know that's one of the words they would have heard as they had their lives taken from them. So that's not going to be forgiven, because these youngsters have come up basically and followed the lead from America. It's quite insulting, actually, because it's nothing to do with us. And as I keep saying, Paul, there's nothing queer about being same-sex attraction. We got over that.
Yeah. And
we left the word behind. I'm sick with it already. But this is the audience they're going for in Doctor Who. You know, that's the one they want. And this is the one Chibnall went after deliberately as well. They're all poisonous. They're absolutely poisonous.
Well, I hope it's going to be the show's downfall. That has to be at this point, because there's nowhere else to go, is there?
No, totally not. And this is what I wanted to say as well. Why is it that these queer TQ cult obsessed alleged fans, the Be Kind Brigade, are the worst examples of alleged fans we've ever seen in fandom? I mean, Paul, we go back years. A lot of you in the chat will go back to fandom.
Yeah.
I have never seen fandom as poisonous as it has been over the last, 7 years?
Well, that's the thing. We've had this conversation many times. When you go to a Doctor Who local group meeting, you meet pals in the pub, whatever, you'd have an argument about who your favourite Doctor is, your favourite story, but you still be friends. You can have a debate, a discussion, a laugh.
Nothing else mattered, did it? It didn't matter what your sexuality is. It didn't matter what your gender was. It didn't matter what colour your skin was. But now everything does. Everything matters. And that's where we've all been segregated now, because of these people. Segregation is their life, isn't it?
Yeah. And you're allowed to have a discussion, a debate. You could open up conversation. You weren't shut down or called names because you preferred Time Flight to the Demons or whatever it was. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah. Yeah. Shankmeister is saying to us here, I don't understand the representation thing with the Doctor. I never wanted to be the Doctor. I just aspired to be his values. That's exactly it. And when it's very clear when you go back and look at the original proper Doctor Who, there is a sort of morality tale in a lot of the stuff. It's about good versus evil, isn't it?
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it's about. And the
Yeah.
Doctor always usually wins out. Yes, okay, he loses a few, but usually it's about that. And it's the way he does it. He never reaches for a gun. He never preaches, really, you know, to the extent that we're getting today. It certainly didn't break down and cry, but it was always about good ways of being, and it was doing it, and it was showing young people here, this is the nice way to, this is the proper way to grow up. It was doing it in a way that society accepted. Do you know what I'm saying, Paul?
Yeah. He was a hero. That's the thing. He was someone to look up to, someone to believe in. He was the most intelligent person in the room. He was someone you respected, you know, but he's not that anymore, is he?
Yeah. No, he's not, because now he's just a preaching git.
Yeah.
And he's human now. I mean, Davies has deliberately made the Doctor human. He's crying every 20 seconds. He's a wuss. There's no impact in this incarnation at all. I mean, you know, the reckoning with Sutek was very, very poor. Can you imagine this particular version of the character in front of a Dalek? The Dalek will just go zap.
Yeah.
You know, he's not going to be able to outwit the Cybermen.
The Dalek will give him something to cry about, certainly, yeah. So.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Peter, in fact, that could be the way they get rid of him. Bring the Daleks back, and the Dalek kills him. That could be the way to get rid of him. This is painful to listen to. I can't believe you're fighting. I can't believe you're fighting. Yeah, well, I was. I just found it so ridiculous, and yet I'll be the one that's in the wrong with these people, of course, for criticizing this alleged journalist, Cassia Gibson, and her outlook on life. You know.
And you're simply standing up for what you believe in, and that's the important.
It's not just that, but it's not just what I believe in. I'm standing up for truth. I'm standing up for democracy. I'm standing up for fact, and I'm standing up for everything I fought for in the 80s and 90s, which is being destroyed on a daily basis by these weirdos.
And they just want to shut you down for having that opinion. That's the thing.
Yes, really exactly. You know, Matthew was saying to us here, people are gay, not queer. Absolutely. And Graham is saying, this is shocking, JT. It's so offensive to gay people. I'm straight and I find it offensive too. So I can't imagine how a gay person would feel hearing this rubbish. Now, the problem with us, of course, now is that we are, like Doctor Who fandom, we are split. There is LGB and then there's LGBTQ+. And the other reason that a lot of LGBT people are on a daily basis moving away from this stuff is because of the whole agenda of the TQ cult, which unfortunately, because it's now in Doctor Who, we have to talk about on this show a lot. It's adding various acronyms. So now you've got asexuals added to it, who have got nothing in common with same-sex. Have they, PB? Nothing in common with us as same-sex attracted people, or even heterosexuals. And you've also got, we've covered it before, the Z and the P are appearing in certain American additions, and in Canada as well, Lisa, I hate to tell you, certain additions to this, plus nonsense, depending what time of day it is. And that's coming over to the United Kingdom. And again, because of all this DEI nonsense, if you don't accept it, Graham, you are ousted. And I can tell you that a lot of us in the chat who are same-sex attracted here, and myself included, we have been ousted. We have lost friends over this because we will not bend the knee and say, yes, we will go along with this. And that hurts as well, because it can be quite lonely, because you lose friends that you've known for 30, 40 years because they've gone to that side of the camp. And I'm saying, and I've said it before, a friend of mine said to me ages ago now, just remember, we didn't leave the left left us. And that's exactly where we are, Paul.
Well, I feel, I won't dwell on it, but the P coming into it is very, very scary, I have to say.
It's very concerning. It's extremely concerning. And there are various people now. You can have a look at, I'm going to name one of the channels. You can look at GB News, and you can see that subject dealt with a particular activist going up against another particular activist who believes that the P, well, they have rights, basically, and it should be added to the LGBTQIAA++ acronym. Disgusting. That's why we wouldn't want nothing to do with it, and any decent person wouldn't. So what they're going to start saying, what are these people running the show and being involved in the show, and alleged journalists like her going to say when that gets added? Are they going to stand with them, or are they going to splinter with them? I don't understand. Again, we're going to be seeing hypocrisy left, right, and centre. It'd be interesting to see what a certain showrunner is going to say and make on all that. Well done, JT, says Barry. That must have been hard to read. Yes, it was. It was terrible, because it's just nonsense as well, isn't it? And
Yeah.
idiots like that are why we can't have quality entertainment. But this is the audience they're after, Who viewers. That's the audience they want for Doctor Who. And do you know what? Let them get on with it, because it's not going to be around for much longer. And let them get over it.
Well, as I said, it's not Doctor Who anymore, sadly. That's the thing.
Nope, this is Doctor Q rather than Doctor Who. And I just say let them get on with it. Let them love it to bits and get their little messages and stuff, because they've alienated all the proper Doctor Who fans, and they've alienated the British public, and it's not helping them. And I just think, I don't know what you guys think in the chat about this. I just think they have no idea about what happened before. They created all these issues to try and solve them, and it was all done. And I just don't understand where all this has come from at all. I just find it nonsensical.
Yeah, it's really worrying that we've come to this position in society that this is how people feel about it.
Yeah. Noel's joined us as well. Hello, Noel. They forgot it's a family show and it has to be entertaining. Totally. Sean, you might think that. I couldn't possibly comment. And Lex is saying to us, it's very creepy what was said from this, I'm going to say, alleged reporter. Funny how a straight man played him in The Adventure in Space and Time. Oh, the irony. That's of Warris, of course, wasn't it? Yeah. What's the name of the guy that played him? I can't remember.
Sacha Dhawan.
Sacha Dhawan. Yeah, that's it. Matthew is saying to us, I have a gay niece and I know she hates this word. She is a Doctor Who fan and cannot stand Gatwa. Not many of us can now, can we? It's shame. It's a shame, because they could have brought us all together, but no, they had to do more pandering, Paul. They had to keep it going.
Having a gay doctor, gay Doctor Who fans don't want that, and that's borne out by what we've already said. So
yeah, exactly. And it's just ridiculous about all that. I just find the whole thing insulting. The whole thing. Stephen Braddock, well, one-sided and inaccurate, misinformed pile of crap, an audience for children, what a spoiled hack, and same-sex is not the Q word. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's Robert saying to us there? Robert Payne is saying to us here, queer means unusual or abnormal, so they really even don't know the meaning of the words. They've just jumped on a bandwagon. They really, really have. They've jumped on a bandwagon and think they're special, and that's the word that they think is acceptable. And Sean is saying to me, JT, you're being unreasonable. These people don't understand what the story actually is. It's true though, Sean, isn't it? Because all they'll do is they'll sit down and watch Doctor Who with their little clipboard and their tick box to see how many of their points are classed. So they would have loved Rogue because of the big thing. That would have been their favorite one ever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? God, they must have been thrilled when that went out live. They must have been wetting themselves. Absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody that's joined us in the chat for all this, and thank you for all your comments. Matt, it's 532, saying it's ironic that this culture of force-feeding viewers inclusion does nothing but create more division. Just get it out of Who. We need to get it out of everything. It needs to come out of our businesses. It needs to come out of our politics. It needs to come out of our entertainment. It needs to come out of this, because society is now starting to wake up, and it's not pretty. And what's happening around the place, I think social media is also quite poisonous when it comes to this, of course, but social media can actually be a vital part in telling us what's going on, because certain news, certain news stations are not telling us truth because of DEI. Oh, we can't show that, or we can't say this, or we must put that spin on it because we want to look on the right side of history. We want to look correct. And so it's not nice. And thank God for alternative stations now that have crept up, like GB News and Talk TV. Thank God they're around. And we need more of them, I'm afraid. Nathan's given us all these little things here saying yes. And Paul Holgate is saying nobody at the BBC or at Disney seems to see what these people are doing is wrong. It's unbelievable. Why are they blind to that, you think, Paul?
Well, I'm going to say why they can't see that in their viewing figures. If a small minority are watching it and that's all that's watching it, doesn't that tell you that no one's interested in all this BS? That's the thing. So
my theory is simply because they'll look at all this and then they'll just go back and saying they'll judge everybody being an otter, an ist, or a phobe, and they'll judge society. And then they'll just double down it by saying, no, we need to get the message out more. We need to educate these people. Everybody's wrong except us. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that is absolutely what they think.
Well, that would explain a lot if that's what they're doing, but it's utter madness, though, isn't it?
Well, as I said at the top of the show, the madness seems to be running everything right now. We really have gone that other way. Poor Rose, the tide is starting to turn slowly, but it will take a number of years. Hopefully this will all pass at some point. If it doesn't, we're pretty much doomed as a species. Totally agree.
Yes.
I totally agree. I'm so glad I was born when I was, and I can see this nonsense for what it really is. Because some of these youngsters, of course, are blinded with wanting to be seen to be the right person. And you can see it
brainwashed.
Yes, but you can see them going on marches and stuff, and then people will say, "Why are you here?" And they don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the right thing to do. Why do you think it's the right thing to do? They're so hollow. They're so hollow. And this is one of the reasons I'm going to say to everybody as well. I really do believe Doctor Who needs to come off the air. It has to come off the air until all this nonsense is gone, even if it takes 20 years, because they're killing the reputation the show now has. It's really, really bad.
I would say it's worse now than it was in 1989, the reputation of the show.
Yes, totally. Yeah. And as we've said before, it could go off the air now and it's not going to get an award in 7, 8, 9, 10 years as favourite drama because nobody's going to retain the information about it now. You know, it hasn't got that in Britain anymore. It hasn't got that magic anymore.
Well, it doesn't have the support, like we said, during the wilderness years, that fan support for bringing it back. There's none of that anymore. That's completely gone.
Exactly. Paul Holgate is saying, at one time of day, queer meant strange or weird. And I know queer as an offensive slang, but other than that, I knew nothing about it, says Cute Pyro. Gay meant being bright and happy. Yeah. And problem being is that queer was the last word many gay men heard before they were beaten to death and kicked to death. It's a disgrace. And worst thing is, these new people, they don't care. No, they don't, do they? They really, really don't care. And why it's in Doctor Who when it shouldn't be. I still don't understand that. Really don't understand that at all. Oh, so there we go. We're up on that one. So I'm going to call it on that one particularly now because that was it. That was a big article, I think, on that one. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Really, really appreciate it here on Headlines. Paul, as ever, thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I hope you all enjoyed the chat as well, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you get those notifications. Please just double check as well to make sure that you are still subscribed to the channel, because we all know what's going on there. So thank you very much. Thank you so much for everybody for all your chats. They're still coming through. What can I say? Really, really appreciate all that. But I'm probably going to agree with all of you. Come and join us again this week. Don't forget that when they drop a headline, we will be here to talk about it. And of course, we're going to have a laugh because by God, we need one. Come and join us on Wednesday, live at 8 o'clock here on the channel as we look and have a good old chinwag about Carry On Cleo. I'm really looking forward to that because that's going to be a very light, fun show, Paul, which I think is exactly what we need.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a great movie. I reckon if you've not seen it, watch it now. Go and watch it now. So
yeah. And I'm going to end with this one from Paul Holgate. They can't take away classic Who, classic Star Wars, classic Trek, classic Marvel, and classic DC amongst all the other franchises. Well said, Paul. They can't do that. They certainly can't live up to it either, can they? Until we see you next time on Who's Views, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week. We'll be back very soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Good night.